Chapter 1807. Enchanting lifted his foot and stomped hard on her chest. With a cracking sound, Wei Mingzhu's ribs broke and she screamed like a pig being slaughtered. This scene caused the students of the Alioth school to shudder and all took a few steps back. His hands were clenched into fists. His nails dug deep into his palms, and blood dripped from the gaps between his fingers. Back then, because you were my sister, I believed your nonsense. I thought Shaoxing left because he was really disappointed in me. Wei Mingzhu, what did you do to Shaoxing back then? What do you want to do to him now? He was such a failure of a man. He had hurt the person he loved, causing him to be abused and almost killed, but he didn't know anything. Only when he reunited with Ling Yuxing did he slowly realize just what kind of terrifying things had happened to Ling Yuxing back then. The people who had hurt Shaoxing were his father, his uncle, and the sister he thought he was. And the person who had hurt Shaoxing the most was himself. When Enchanting found out that Ling Yuxing had jumped off the Duantian cliff and narrowly escaped death, his heart ached so much that he couldn't breathe. He had stood outside the Alcade school all those nights, watching the light in Ling Yuxing's room turn on and off, tears streaming down his face. How he wanted to rush into that room, take his beloved into his arms, and confess his sins to her. But he didn't dare. Before he could avenge Shaoxing and get justice, he did not have the right to do so. Enchanting looked down at Wei Mingzhu coldly. I'll count to 3. If you don't tell me where Shaoxing is, I'll kill you. Wei Mingzhu's eyes widened in fear and she shook her head with tears streaming down her face. Brother, don't joke around. You can't kill people, this is the school, you'll be expelled. You're the young master of the Ouyang clan, how can you leave a stain on your reputation for a man, for Ling Yuxing? Brother, you won't do that, right? Enchanting heard this and laughed softly. He had a handsome face, sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes, and he had an air of righteousness around him. But when he smiled, his eyes were dripping with blood, and he looked like a wild beast that had long since gone mad. For Shaoxing's sake, let alone killing you, Wei Mingzhu, I will not hesitate even if the entire Wei family disappears from this world. With that, he raised his hand, and a sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Without the slightest hesitation, he fiercely stabbed at Wei Mingzhu's chest. Ah! No! I'll talk. Ling Yuxing was in the Wei family. He's in Wei Yongjin's hands. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Wei Mingzhu screamed and wailed madly, her legs kicking with all her might. Not long after, a puddle of yellow liquid flowed out from between her legs, emitting a foul stench. The students of the Alioth branch vomited from the smell and could only retreat a few more steps. Enchanting withdrew the sword that had pierced through Wei Mingzhu's chest and said hoarsely, Wei Yongjin. Wei Mingzhu looked at the sword in her chest and panted. It's my cousin Wei Yongjin. He took Ling Yuxing away. She suddenly laughed maniacally, her loose hair shaking uncontrollably. Brother, you still don't know. Back then, when Ling Yuxing left the Ouyang clan, he fell into Wei Yongjin's hands. Wei Yongjin's methods of torture are not something ordinary people can endure. Chapter 1808. That's why Ling Yuxing went crazy. Even though that bitch survived, he became neither a man nor a woman. This time, he's fallen into Wei Yongjin's hands once more. What do you think that bitch, Ling Yuxing, will become? Enchanting's body trembled uncontrollably. He only knew that Ling Yuxing had been imprisoned back then, and that the Wei family was involved in it. However, he did not know that the one who imprisoned and injured Ling Yuxing was actually Wei Yongjin. When the Alioth branch students heard Wei Mingju's malicious words and curses, they were disgusted by her to the extreme. Kill her. Kill this evil woman. That's right, senior brother Ouyang, if you don't dare to make a move, we'll do it. Damn it, at most I'll be expelled from the academy. I'll go all out. He actually dared to harm a member of the Carefree Squad. I won't tolerate it even if I die. Wei Mingju's laughter sounded as if someone had squeezed her throat. His hysterical madness turned into terror once again. Ouyang Qing's eyes were bloodshot, but his expression was extremely calm. He held the sword in his hand and walked towards Wei Mingju step by step. No, brother, you can't kill me. You won't kill me, right? I may not be your sister, but I love you. Ever since I found out that I wasn't the daughter of the Ouyang family, ever since I could remember, I've only had you in my heart. Brother, in this world, there's no one who loves you more than me. How can you kill me? However, Ouyang Qing acted as if she did not hear her words at all, and the sword in her hand suddenly stabbed out. However, just as the sword was delivered halfway, the sound of a zither resounded in the classroom. Following that, the sound blade flew out, causing Ouyang Qing's sword tip to deviate by an inch, stabbing into Wei Mingju's shoulder. Despite the excruciating pain in her shoulder, Wei Mingju still looked at the reinforcements at the door with wild joy. However, when she saw who it was, the joy on her face suddenly turned into fear. Holding the Tian Mo Qin in her hand, Mayan walks in step by step, the corners of her mouth hooking up into an eerie smile. Wei Mingju, do you want to die a quick death? You still have to ask my fifth senior brother if he agrees. Wei Mingju opened her mouth and wanted to say something. But the sound of Mayan's zither had already been heard. The music was imbued with spiritual qi. It condensed above Wei Mingju's head and suddenly turned into a cage, binding Wei Mingju tightly. Drawing Prison, a level 5 skill. It could trap those with low cultivation in a cage made of music, making them unable to struggle or escape. After Mu Yan appeared, Ouyang Qing did not stop for a moment and directly rushed to the Wei clan. In fact, during this period of time, he had grasped the power of the Ouyang family in his hands, completely overthrowing his father, Ouyang Xiangdong, and stepmother, Wei Kaizhu, who had been in seclusion all year round. On the other hand, he used the Ouyang family's secret forces to continuously weaken the Wei family. Because of Wei Tianming's death, the Wei family began to decline. In addition to Ouyang Qing's suppression, the current Wei clan was already on the verge of collapse. However, no matter how weakened they were, the Wei family was still a second-rate family. Wei Tiangang, the ancestor of the Wei clan, who had been in seclusion for many years, was at the peak of the Golden Core realm. When Ling Yuxing and the others were fighting the Tian family, they were also able to deal with Tian Haibo's peak Golden Core stage slaughter puppets. But there was a world of difference in strength between peak Golden Core realm and peak Golden Core realm. In the end, puppets were puppets. They had no fighting awareness, no fighting skills. Chapter 1809. Even if they were both at the peak of the Golden Core realm, a true cultivator would be at least 3 to 5 times stronger than a puppet. With Ling Yuxing's strength, it would be difficult for him to deal with Wei Tiangang. Furthermore, the Wei clan had so many death warriors. There was no lack of Golden Core cultivators. Ouyang Qing could not imagine what would happen to Ling Yuxing if he was brought back to the Wei clan. If he were to fall into the hands of that bastard Wei Yongjin once more. Thinking about this, Ouyang Qing's eyes turned red, and his eyes were filled with a crazed killing intent. His Shaoxing. If anyone dared to touch his Shaoxing again, he would make sure that bastard was buried with him. However, when Ouyang Qing landed in the Wei clan and saw the scene before him, his pupils constricted. The huge Wei clan was filled with the thick stench of blood and the aura of death at this moment. From the main door to the main room, everywhere was filled with corpses. Almost all of these corpses had their throats slit with a single slash. When they died, their eyes were wide open, as though they could not believe what had happened. Yang quickly came to the square. Here, a few tens of Wei clan members were tightly surrounding a youth that was bathed in blood. The leader, Wei Tiangang, was filled with rage, gritting his teeth. Ling Yuxing, you dared to kill so many of my Wei clan members. Today, I, Wei Tiangang, will not rest until I tear you to shreds. The few golden core cultivators standing beside Wei Tiangang looked at the youth with fear. Patriarch, be careful, this little rascal is too strange. He's so fast that we can't even catch his shadow. The youth slowly raised his head, revealing a snow-white, yet blood-stained face. His eyes were dark and gloomy, as if they had lost their focus. He looked frail and weak, as though he could be blown away by a gust of wind. However, the moment he moved, everyone in the square reacted as though they were facing a great enemy, and they subconsciously retreated in fear. Ling Yuxing took a deep breath, and circulated the spiritual energy in his body once more. However, at the next instant, he felt a burning sensation from his dantian. His body swayed, and he almost fell to the ground. The people of the Wei clan immediately cried out in joy, he's exhausted. This brat's spiritual energy is finally exhausted. Ha ha ha. Everyone, let's kill him together. Wei Tiangang abruptly unleashed his pressure and spiritual energy. He was the first to soar into the sky and ruthlessly smashed towards the top of Ling Yuxing's head. Ling Yuxing calmly closed his eyes, standing there quietly, waiting for death to come. Without the help of his junior sister and his senior brothers, he was still too weak. However, in the next moment, his body was suddenly pulled into a warm embrace. Bang! Wei Tiangong's palm hit Yangqing's back. In the nick of time, he rushed over to protect Ling Yuxing and didn't even have the time to circulate his spiritual energy. Now that he was struck by the full power of a peak golden core cultivator, he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. With trembling hands, Ling Yuxing touched the warm liquid that splashed on his face. In a daze, she raised her head to look at the handsome face that was right in front of her. Her unfocused eyes slowly lit up and reflected Yangqing's figure. Little Xing, don't be afraid. Yangqing reached out and caressed his blood-stained face. The corners of her mouth pulled into an incomparably gentle smile. I'm sorry, I'm late again. Chapter 1810. However, Shaoxing, don't be afraid. This time, I will not let anyone hurt you. After that, he suddenly turned around, and the sword in his hand danced in an airtight manner, firmly blocking Ling Yuxing behind him. Even if it was an attack from behind, he would use his own back to block it. In just a few moments, the blood on Yangqing's body was no less than Ling Yuxing's. Wei Tiangong's attack had failed, and he retreated to his original position, discovering that the one who blocked his attack was actually Yangqing. He was immediately enraged. Qing'er, what are you doing? How can you help outsiders deal with your maternal grandfather's family? Yangqing wiped the blood off his face, laughing coldly. Maternal family. Then may I ask, which one of you is my grandfather? His sharp gaze swept across everyone present. That year when my grandfather died in an accident, my mother was grieving over my father's death and fell ill. Not only did you not comfort my mother, you even tried to take care of my grandfather's descendants. Instead, you used the excuse of taking care of my mother to send Wei Kaizhu to the Ouyang family. In the end, she climbed into my father's bed. Devouring was filled with grief, and he was betrayed by his king. He died on the spot. What about you guys? Using the name of my maternal family, you lied to the ignorant me, making me think that Wei Kaizhu entered the Ouyang clan to take care of me. Wei Kaizhu had wanted to give birth to a son, and let him inherit the Ouyang clan. Who knew that she only gave birth to a daughter, and was unable to conceive another child? In the end, Wei Kaizhu had no choice but to change her mind. She wanted to use her and Wei Tianming's daughter to steal Ouyang Qing's heart, and make Wei Mingzhu the mistress of the Ouyang clan. Hence, ever since Ouyang Qing could remember, Wei Kaizhu had always been gentle and caring towards him. At one point, he had treated her as his kin, and treated her as his own sister. However, who would have thought that these two would be so crazy, and the Wei clan was even more vicious than most people could imagine. The more Ouyang Qing investigated, the more shocked he became. He finally understood how foolish he had been in the past. Because of his foolishness, what kind of harm had he brought to Shaoxing? Hearing Ouyang Qing's words, Wei Tiangang and the rest had awkward expressions. However, very quickly, Wei Tiangang rebuked, "Even if we did something wrong, we're still your kin. Who does this little hussy think she is? He killed so many people from my Wei family. Are you still going to stand on his side?" Suddenly, his face was filled with disgust. "Don't tell me that Mingzhu said that you like men, and were seduced by this little slut, is it true?" The sword in Ouyang Qing's hand slashed out fiercely. "Wei Tiangang, you can insult me, but you can't insult little Xing." Wei Tiangang was so angry that his whole body was trembling. You actually dare to treat me like this? I'm your granduncle. If you dare to make a move against me, you will be committing treason and will be struck by lightning." Ouyang Qing looked up to the sky and let out a long howl. The long sword in his hand, along with him, flew out. The man's hoarse but resolute voice reverberated between heaven and earth. "For Shaoxing, even if I have to become enemies with the entire world, even if I have to be struck by lightning and be consigned to eternal damnation, I will not hesitate." Ling Yuxing looked at the man who rushed out, his already cold and numb heart lightly beating. However, Ouyang Qing's strength was only on par with Ling Yuxing. Ling Yuxing couldn't fight against everyone in the Wei clan by himself, and Ouyang Qing naturally couldn't do it either. Chapter 1811. Especially the ancestor of the Wei clan, Wei Tiangang. He had only come out when Ling Yuxing was almost exhausted from the battle. He was powerful and had a profound cultivation. Even at his peak, the two of them might not be his match. Moreover, Ling Yuxing's spiritual power was already exhausted, and Ouyang Qing was seriously injured. If Wei Tiangang didn't dare to kill Ouyang Qing because she was the young master of the Ouyang clan, Ouyang Qing would have already fallen. At this moment, the melodious sound of a zither came from the sky. Ling Yuxing felt that his dried-up dantian was filled with an endless stream of gentle spiritual power. His eyes lit up and he looked up at the sky. He saw a black-haired girl in green holding a black zither and stepping on a crystal-clear longsword. She slowly landed on the ground. Echo Aura activated. It was Mu Yan's zither that allowed Ling Yuxing's spiritual power to flow into his limbs and bones. Not long after, the flying boat whizzed over from behind Mu Yan. The people of the Xiao Yao sect jumped off the flying boat. "Xiao Wu, are you okay?" When the people of the Xiao Yao sect saw Ling Yuxing covered in blood, their expressions changed. Their murderous intent swept through the entire training field of the Wei clan like a bone-chilling wind. Ling Yuma didn't think and immediately released her ardent sun domain. The blazing aura caused the spiritual power in the air of the Wei clan to boil. "How dare you bully our Xiao Wu, go to hell!" The long blade suddenly soared into the sky and fiercely slashed at the people of the Wei clan who were attacking Ouyang Qing. The blade was wrapped in spiritual power, and like a fire dragon, it crashed into the crowd with a bang. A few of the Wei clan guards, who were fighting excitedly, immediately let out miserable cries as they were thrown to the ground by the saber force. There was clearly no fire, but their clothes showed signs of being burnt. Even now, their skin and flesh were still making sizzling sounds along with their moans. The people of the Wei clan stopped attacking Ouyang Qing. Wei Tiangang saw that among the people injured by the blade energy, there was a junior of the Wei clan that he thought highly of. He immediately became furious and fiercely glared at Mu Yan and the others. "Who are you? How dare you come to my Wei clan and behave atrociously?" As he spoke, the two black hammers in his hands turned into a ray of light and flew towards Lang Yuma and Luo Yu. These two hammers were called black gold hammers. Although they were only the size of 2 palms, they were extremely powerful. In fact, each sword was as heavy as a small mountain. It was a genuine 7th-stage spirit weapon. If an ordinary person were to be lightly touched by this black gold hammer, all the bones in their body would break. Furthermore, the power of the black gold hammer was not limited to just this. When Wei Tiangang took out the black gold hammer, he poured his gold spiritual energy into it. The two hammers had just flown into the air when they were already crackling with lightning. Every time a bolt of lightning landed on the ground, it would raise a cloud of dust and create a small pit. With such a strike, not to mention a few Enidia stage kids, even a Jindan stage expert would definitely be smashed by this black gold hammer until he vomited blood and was roasted by the lightning. However, before the black gold hammers could get close to Lang Yuma and Luo Yu, the melodious sound of the zither rang out. Then, a wall of sound appeared in front of the 7 people of the Xiaoyao sect. The black gold hammers heavily smashed on the wall of sound, making crackling sounds of lightning. It kept spinning, but it was unable to move an inch forward. Wei Tiangong's face changed and he blurted out, "This is impossible. How could there be someone who could block his black gold hammers?" Wei Tiangang gritted his teeth, and the spiritual energy in his body revolved wildly, pouring into the black gold hammers through the air. Chapter 18:12. The two black hammers spun even faster on the sound wall, emitting a zzz sound. Mayan's expression is leisurely as she says slowly, "Second senior brother." The devourer calls him, and he immediately steps forward obediently, extending both hands. One in each hand, he grabs the two hammers that are crazily spinning and vibrating on the sound wall. The weight of the hammers is so great, their spinning speed is so fast, and they're also attached with lightning. If an ordinary person were to touch them, their fingers and bones would have long been smashed and scorched. But Qinzhou grabs the two hammers easily, as if he's grabbing a chick. Wei Tiangong's face is even more aghast, his voice suddenly rising, "Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Ah!" The next moment, he feels that the divine sense he branded on the hammers is forcibly erased by a fierce energy. Wei Tiangang immediately spits out a mouthful of blood, his eyes filled with fury. Thief, you dare to take away my hammers." Mayan is all smiles as she pats the silly Qinzhou. "Well done, put away these hammers. Later, just use them as a plaything." Qinzhou nods, grabs his hair, and giggles mischievously. Although he prefers to fight with his fists. But the little junior sister told him to put them away, so of course he has to. Wei Tiangang watches helplessly as his 7th-grade spiritual tool is snatched away. He's simply going mad with anger. But before he could flare up, someone from the Wei family suddenly cries out, "Jun Mayan, she's the female devil Jun Mayan." Soon after, this person's gaze turns to Yun Ruhan, Qinzhou, Chu Moli, Ling Yuma, Luo Yu, and Ling Yuxing with alarm and disbelief. His pupils suddenly contract, the shock on his face makes him almost unable to speak clearly. The unfettered 7 devils, they're the unfettered 7 devils. Ling Yuxing, how could I forget, one of the unfettered 7 devils is also called Ling Yuxing. As soon as this statement comes out, the Wei family side is completely silent, completely scared silly. Unfettered. Unfettered 7 devils. Which unfettered 7 devils? Could it be that the unfettered 7 devils, the 4th great world of the azure blue world, the Tian family, which had a nascent soul stage cultivator? Heavens, what kind of person did their Wei family provoke? Thump. Some of the guards of the Wei clan could not take it anymore, kneeling on the ground, their faces pale. I'm not from the Wei clan. I'm just a servant hired by the Wei clan. I'm willing to surrender. I surrender too, please spare our lives. Many of the Wei clan's guards changed sides and knelt on the ground to beg for mercy. It was not that they were weak or cowardly, nor did they have a contract spirit. It was just that the reputation of the 7 unfettered devils was too terrifying. Especially June Mayan, that demoness. Anyone who had heard of her legendary deeds would know. From the Min Lu domain to the Azure Cloud domain to the Azure Blue domain, as long as they offended her, they would all die a miserable death. You don't believe me? Let's take a look at the Tian family. Not to mention the complete annihilation of a large clan, the Tian clan's lackeys were stripped of their clothes and made to pose in a shameful pose, with a large number of nude paintings painted on them. Presently, these paintings had long since spread throughout the streets and alleys of the Min LV, Azure Cloud, and Azure Blue domains. These people would probably never be able to raise their heads again in this lifetime. Sob, 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 they would rather die than follow in the footsteps of the Tian family. Even Wei Tiangang is dumbfounded. He shakily raises his head and meets Ling Yuxing's cold eyes, then turns to look at the murderous Mayan and the rest. He shudders all over. Chapter 1813. The Unfettered 7 Devils. Are they really the unfettered 7 devils? No, no, no. How is this possible? It's not like he doesn't know Ling Yuxing. Isn't that the son of Ouyang Manor's housekeeper? He's seen him a few times in the past when he visited the Ouyang family. Although he has delicate features and outstanding talent, it's not a big deal. Back then, Ling Yuxing had Ouyang Qing's protection, but he was still tortured by the Wei family. How did he become the unfettered 7 devils that the entire Azure Blue world trembles in fear? Wei Tiangang grits his teeth. Ling Yuxing, don't think that this old man will be afraid of you just because you found a few people to pretend to be the unfettered 7 devils. Even if you've grown stronger and know how to put on an act, you can't change the fact that you're just a lowly bastard. Moreover, a shameless bastard who likes men. Ha ha ha. Ouyang Qing's eyes are spitting fire, about to make a move against Wei Tiangang. However, Ling Yuxing slowly took a step forward and stopped his movements. I will avenge myself. Ouyang Qing's eyes are full of heartache, but he still retreats. Yun Ruhan and the rest also take a few steps back, standing behind Mu Yan. Mu Yan leisurely and languidly sits on the ground, his slender white fingers lightly plucking the zither strings. 5th senior brother, I'll be your assistant. The rest of the Wei family are all yours. Ling Yuxing smiles gratefully at Mu Yan. He took out a silver hair tie from his chinquan pouch, and tied his long hair. His face was stained with blood, but it appeared even more delicate and beautiful. The warm sunlight and gentle breeze fall on his face, he can't help but narrow his eyes, taking a deep breath. When he opens his eyes again, the haze and deathly stillness in his eyes have completely dissipated. Yes, he wasn't all alone and filled with despair any longer. He has senior brothers and sisters by his side who care for him, master and junior uncle who teach him. Those are his nightmares, but he's awakened from them now. The road ahead is lit with sparks, bringing warmth and hope. Ling Yuxing's face slowly blooms with a bright smile. Wei Tiangang, Wei Yongjin, Wei Mingzhu, today, I'll take back everything your Wei family owes me. The muscles on Wei Tiangong's face twitched. He wanted to scold him for overestimating himself. How could a cultivator at the Enidia stage be compared to him, a cultivator at the peak of Jindan stage? However, at this moment, a terrifying energy that made him shudder suddenly spread out from Ling Yuxing and engulfed everyone present. Silence, emptiness, like the murmur of flowing water, and the silence of the night. But in reality, it was neither. It was the one and only space-time corridor in the world. Mayan's eyes suddenly widen, and she almost plucks a wrong string on the zither. The other members of the Xiaoyao sect were also shocked. Ouyang Qing was pleasantly surprised as she looked at the youth not far away. There was pride and excitement on her face as her eyes slowly turned red. After a long while, Yun Ruhan muttered hoarsely, Little Five activated his domain. Yes. At this moment, Ling Yuxing, whose mind was clear and bright, finally activated his own domain. Moreover, it was the space domain that very few people in the world could activate. His domain was the same as Luo Yunxiao, belonging to the 9 luminaries Great Yin. Wei Tiangong's eyes slightly protruded. His pupils were bloodshot, visible to the naked eye. Extreme fear made the veins on his hand that was holding the weapon bulge. Chapter 1814. An hour later, Wei Tiangang lay on the ground like a dead dog, coughing up blood non-stop, unable to get up. As for the rest of the Wei clan, they had already been devoured. Those who had already fainted, those who had surrendered. Amidst the corpses, the one who stood stably was that delicate and frail youth. We won. Luo Yu laughed as she ran over and hugged the youth, shouting excitedly, Fifth senior brother, you're amazing. You were so fast, I couldn't even see your movements. Ling Yuxing's body swayed, his face pale, but he smiled warmly. I didn't think that I could activate my domain under such circumstances. His domain was related to space, so when it was used in battle, it was the limit of speed, even teleportation. Just now, when he fought with Wei Tiangang, he used a speed that the naked eye couldn't follow to exhaust him to death. It was just that this kind of battle technique consumed too much spiritual energy and yuan qi. Even with the help of junior sister Zither, he felt drained, and couldn't muster any strength. But no matter what, being able to activate his domain was a pleasant surprise. Ling Yuxing said, This time, I finally have the face to see Teacher Mo and Junior Uncle. Hearing his words, Luo Yu's face fell. That's right, the only ones who haven't activated their domains are second senior brother, third senior brother, and him. Back then, Teacher Mo and Junior Uncle only gave them 3 more months, and now the 3 months are almost up. If they still can't activate their domains, Teacher Mo and Junior Uncle will be completely disappointed in them, and won't care about them anymore. In fact, Luo Yu felt strange. The rest of the Xiaoyao sect, including second senior brother, felt that they had touched the door of the domain. But only he could feel that he was getting closer and closer to the door. But recently, this feeling had disappeared. On the contrary, the soul pearl on his back was constantly burning. There were a few times when he was dreaming, he could even hear Bai Zhe whispering something in his ear. But what exactly it said, he couldn't remember it when he woke up. Ling Yuxing was about to comfort Luo Yu, when his expression suddenly changed, and he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was holding a bloody person in his hand. It was Wei Yongjin. Even though Ling Yuxing had thought things through, his eyes were still filled with deep hatred when he saw Wei Yongjin. Just now, he had only crippled Wei Yongjin and not killed him. Instead, he had focused on dealing with the Wei family. That was because he would not allow that bastard to die so easily. The bones in Wei Yongjin's legs were completely shattered, the piercing pain causing his entire body to tremble. When he saw Ling Yuxing, his face revealed deep fear, and he screamed as he tried to crawl away. Ling Yuxing sneered, and the demon-absorbing needle in his hand flew out. Oh! Dozens of needles pierced into Wei Yongjin's body, not into his flesh, but directly into his bones. How could an ordinary person endure that kind of pain? Wei Yongjin immediately let out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered, and his whole body kept bouncing on the ground. Ling Yuxing retracted his hand and activated the demonic binding silk. The needle in Wei Yongjin's body flew out. This was another round of torture for Wei Yongjin. When all 36 demon-absorbing needles were pulled out, Wei Yongjin could barely speak. Chapter 18:15. Spare my life. Boo-hoo, spare my life. Ling Yuxing slowly walks up to Wei Yongjin, looking down at him from above. That year, when I begged you to let me go, what was your answer? At that time, Wei Yongjin was holding torture tools in his hands, his face showing a psychopathic smile. Ha ha ha, only when you're being tortured will you let out such a beautiful cry. I can't stop myself from yelling. In order for this young master to enjoy it, Ling Yuxing, cry out in pain. The louder you cry, the more pain you show, the more excited and comfortable this young master will be, ha 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 ha. The needles in Ling Yuxing's hands fly out again. This time, it's not 36, but 81. 9 of them uniformly plunge into Wei Yongjin's spine. The sound of his spine being pierced rang in Wei Yongjin's ears one after another. Ling Yuxing looks at him coldly, his voice icy. Didn't you say that you like to listen to other people's cries of pain? Then listen to it properly. Wei Yongjin's mouth is wide open, drool continuously flowing from his mouth, mixing with his tears. The crotch of his trousers has long been muddy. He can't even scream anymore. He can only struggle and crawl towards Wei Tiangang, his mouth shouting, "Save me, save me." Mu Yan throws Ouyang Mingzhu in front of Ling Yuxing from her Qianquan bag. Fifth brother, these people owe you, today you'll get them all back. The sound prison loosens, and Wei Mingzhu awkwardly crawls out. Her eyes turn, and she first sees the Wei family's plaque. Her face brightens, and she's about to cry for help. But before her voice can come out, she sees the Wei family members lying in disorder on the square, Wei Tiangang, who's on the verge of death, and Wei Yongjin, who's covered in blood and wailing incessantly. The hope in Wei Mingzhu's eyes slowly turns into panic. Then, her gaze falls on Ouyang Qing, and she frantically rushes over. Big brother, save me. She hugs Ouyang Qing's thigh, tears streaming down her face. Brother, I'm the little sister you watched grow up. When I was young, you hugged me and fed me milk. You won't just stand and watch as I'm killed, right? Ling Yuxing's body suddenly stiffened when he saw this. The absorbing needles in his hands were slowly lowered. Ouyang Qing's heart ached when she saw Ling Yuxing's actions. But he did not say anything. Instead, he lowered his head to look at Wei Mingzhu, who was hugging him. Have you forgotten? You have already admitted to me that you are Wei Mingzhu, the bastard child of Wei Kaizhu and Wei Tianming. Look, even your name contains the affection between the two of them. Wei Mingzhu shuddered, then cried even harder. Yes, I'm not your biological sister, but I love you. Brother, everything I do is only because I love you. If it wasn't for that slut Ling Yuxing seducing you, I would have already obtained your heart. I was jealous of him and hated him. That's why I attacked him. Brother, how can you bear to kill me, who loves you so much? Seeing this, Ling Yuxing slowly lowered his eyes and revealed a mocking smile. In Ouyang Qing's heart, Ouyang Mingzhu, the younger sister who grew up with him, was more important. Perhaps the person Ouyang Qing truly loved was Ouyang Mingzhu. Otherwise, why would he have chased her away that year? Chapter 18:16. Why would he leave the Ouyang clan and turn a blind eye to her life and death, allowing Wei Yongjin and Ouyang Mingzhu to persecute her to such an extent? The devouring slowly turned into a sharp killing intent. He raised the demon-absorbing needle in his hand again. So what if Ouyang Qing wanted to protect Ouyang Mingzhu? He had never forgotten what Ouyang Mingzhu had done to him back then. He would definitely get her back. Ouyang Qing's heart ached even more when she saw Ling Yuxing's actions. He hurriedly tried to explain, "Little Xing." Before he could finish his words, his face suddenly changed, and he pounced towards Ling Yuxing without thinking. Ling Yuxing never expected that Ouyang Qing would directly attack him when he wanted to kill Ouyang Mingzhu. For a moment, the hatred, pain, and despair in his heart surged again. However, before the hatred in his heart could completely ferment, Ouyang Qing had already hugged him tightly and turned around. Boom! A loud noise came from behind the two of them. Ling Yuxing felt that his internal organs were shaking. Then, a stream of warm liquid sprayed into his neck. The pungent smell of blood slowly flowed on his skin. Ling Yuxing was stunned, his body stiffening inch by inch. His pupils shrunk to the size of a needle tip, and the blood in his body turned cold bit by bit. He opened his mouth, and after a long while, he managed to speak in a hoarse voice, "Ouyang Qing." Ouyang Qing's arms, which were hugging him, slowly fell down. The tall body seemed to have finally exhausted all its strength, and slowly fell down. Behind him was Wei Tiangang, who was covered in blood and had a large hole in his dantian. He fell straight to the ground and swallowed his last breath. Until the moment of his death, he still had a sinister smile on his face. Wei Tiangang saw that the Wei clan was going to be annihilated and knew that he would not be able to escape his fate. He was also indignant that the Wei clan had been destroyed by the hands of Ling Yuxing, the son of a servant, so he actually chose to self-destruct. Mu Yan and the others all thought that the Wei family's people had long been beaten by Ling Yuxing to the point where they did not have the strength to retaliate. Therefore, everyone's attention was focused on Wei Yongjin and Wei Mingzhu. It was to the extent that no one noticed Wei Tiangong's unusual movements. Only Ouyang Qing remained. His attention, his gaze, his entire heart, had never left Ling Yuxing for even a moment. Therefore, when Wei Tiangang blew himself up, without thinking, he pounced over and blocked the attack for Ling Yuxing. Ling Yuxing suddenly crouched down and caught Ouyang Qing's falling body. He wanted to help her up, but found that his hands were shaking badly. Little junior sister. Ling Yuxing screamed. Even he himself did not realize how much fear there was in his voice. Mu Yan quickly stepped forward and took Ouyang Qing's pulse, but his heart sank. Ouyang Qing's injuries were obviously very serious, and she was already on the verge of death. She doesn't say much and quickly plucks the strings of the Tian Mo Qin. The saint of benevolence was displayed without hesitation. In the space, Qi Huang said with a sullen face, "Jun Mayan, you idiot, you're wasting your lifespan for someone else again." Mu Yan, in the future, my cultivation will inevitably reach the peak of a cultivator, and my lifespan will naturally be more than thousands of years. What's there to be afraid of if I consume a little bit of it? Qi Huang said angrily, "You're really shameless when you praise yourself. Who said that your lifespan will definitely be more than 10,000 years? Chapter 18-17. Mayan sneers, "My fiancé has already lived for 1,000 years, and my son has a natural immortal body. If there are no accidents, he can live for at least a few thousand years. My tool's spirit has already existed for tens of thousands of years. If I can't live a little longer, wouldn't I be living in vain?" Qi Huang. Damn it, what she said makes sense, he can't refute it at all. However, the benevolence of the saint can bring Ouyang Qing back from the edge of life and death, but it can't really heal his injuries. Blood keeps gushing out of Ouyang Qing's mouth. Ling Yuxing shakes his hand, wanting to feed the pill into his mouth. But Yang-Qing grabs his wrist. The blood-stained hand has clearly lost its strength, but it's tightly clenched, like it's going all out to hold on to something important. A broken voice overflows from Yang-Qing's mouth. Xiaoxing, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you back then. Why couldn't I protect the one I love the most in this life? Tears mixed with blood trickle down his face, carrying so much regret, despair, and pain. Ling Yuxing puts the pill into his mouth, his voice trembling. Don't talk anymore. Yang-Qing, you can't repay what you owe me in this lifetime, so you'd better live well. Devour jumps, his originally dim eyes brighten a bit. He opens his mouth. Xiaoxing, I still have a chance to stay by your side. Yang-Qing's words haven't finished. The sluggish Wei Mingzhu comes back to her senses. She really loves Yang-Qing. Seeing that Yang-Qing was seriously injured and on the verge of death, she scrambled over to him. Brother. How are you? Don't scare me, okay? Suddenly, she fiercely glares at Ling Yuxing, shrieking hysterically, Ling Yuxing, it's all because of you, you slut, Jinx. You're the one who killed my brother. He was originally the young master of the Ouyang family, young and promising, with outstanding talent. He would have become the most outstanding cultivator in Cloud-Piercing City and even the Blue World. But because you, slut, seduced him, you made him bear the infamy of liking men, making him unable to stay in Cloud-Piercing City. And now you killed him. Ling Yuxing, you shameless slut, why didn't you die? Wei Mingzhu's voice stopped abruptly. She opened her mouth wide and made a cracking sound. Her head stiffened and drooped down woodenly as she looked at her chest. There, a long sword pierced through. Blood dripped from the tip of the sword. Why? Wei Mingzhu slowly turned around and looked at Yang-Qing, who was holding the sword. Brother, why are you doing this to me? Yang-Qing's eyes were already unfocused, and his breathing was so weak that it was almost inaudible. But his hand that was holding the sword was extremely steady, and it steadily pierced through Wei Mingzhu's chest. A low and hoarse voice slowly spat out from his slightly parted lips. Back then. I told you. Anyone who hurts little Xing, I will never let them go. I will never forgive them. Yang-Qing pulled out the sword stuck in his chest. Once again, he spurted out a mouthful of blood. Yang-Qing. Ling Yuxing hugged him and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He couldn't help but roar, Yang-Qing, don't die. Chapter 1818. You said that you owe me, and you will compensate me for the rest of your life. You can't break your promise again and again. Yang-Qing's face slowly blooms with a warm smile. Xiaoxing, I have been waiting for many years to tell you, but I'm afraid, if I don't say it, I won't have the chance. Xiaoxing, I love you. A long time ago, before Ling Yuxing fell in love with Yang-Qing, Yang-Qing has been deeply in love with Ling Yuxing. I just don't dare to admit. Who would have thought that his momentary confusion and struggle would cause Ling Yuxing to suffer so much? Who would have thought that just a momentary miss would almost separate them forever, life and death? If there is a next life, will you still be with me? Whether it's a man or a woman, whether it's a man or a beast, as long as Yang-Qing and Ling Yuxing are together, it's fine. It has nothing to do with human relations, nothing to do with morality. It's just pure love. Ling Yuxing can't hold back his tears anymore. He grabs Yang-Qing's hand and sobs, Yang-Qing, I won't let you die. Don't die, don't leave me, okay? There is no next life, there is no next life, I only want Ouyang Qing to live. Brother Qing, I promise you, as long as you live, I will forgive you, and from now on, we will never be separated. Ouyang Qing's pale face is covered with blood, but he shows a bright and satisfied smile, then slowly closes his eyes. Brother Qing. Ling Yuxing lets out a mournful and desperate cry. The people of the Xiaoyao school also sadly look away, unwilling to see this scene of life and death. At this time, the zither music slowly stops. Mu Yan weakly says, "Don't worry, he won't die, he just entered the star fantasy to receive treatment." Ling Yuxing suddenly raises his head, his red eyes look at Mu Yan, his voice trembling with hope. "Junior sister, you mean Brother Qing is still alive?" Mu Yan raises her eyebrows. Although her face is pale and weak, her eyes are filled with disdain. "Since I made a move, how can I let him die? Don't worry, when he wakes up from the astral illusion, he'll be fine after devouring it. It's just that his body is extremely weak now, and he needs a long time to recuperate." Ling Yuxing quickly stretched out his hand to check Ouyang Qing's pulse. Although it was weak, both her breathing and spiritual energy were stable. It was obvious that he was still alive, but he had fallen into a deep sleep. Overjoyed, he raises his head and looks at Mayan. He wants to say thank you, but he can't utter a word for a long time. Mu Yan smiled and said, "You want to thank me? There was no need for that. I just feel that if I let Ouyang Qing die like this, wouldn't my fifth martial sister-in-law be gone? It won't be easy to find another handsome guy who can stand next to my fifth senior brother." The members of the Xiaoyao sect burst into laughter. Fifth sister-in-law. Fifth sister-in-law. Looking at Ouyang Qing's handsome, masculine face, the Xiaoyao sect disciples and Yun Ruhan couldn't help but laugh as they nodded in agreement. Of course, Ouyang Qing would marry into the Xiaoyao school. However, since Ouyang Qing was now a family member of the Xiaoyao school, they should treat him better in the future. Chapter 18-19. Everyone looks at Wei Yongjin and Wei Mingzhu. One of them is scared to the point of insanity, and the other has been stimulated by Ouyang Qing. Their mouths keep spouting nonsense. Ling Yuxing looks at the two, and suddenly loses interest in revenge. He's about to finish them off with a single sword strike. Unexpectedly, Chu Moli suddenly opens his mouth. "I'm short of 2 experimental subjects, why don't you give them to me?" Mayan looks at him suspiciously. "Third brother, you've taken away at least 8 if not 10 experimental subjects, right? What are you doing?" The conflict with the Tian family last time was also because of those Xiuzha that had been especially rude, and had done too many heinous things. Mayan and the others originally wanted to execute justice, but they were also taken away by Chu Moli. However, no one in the entire Xiaoyao school knows what kind of abnormal experiment this abnormal third brother is doing. Chu Moli shows a gentle smile, and unhurriedly says, "It's a secret." Moreover, he pauses, meets Mayan's eyes, and his expression becomes more and more gentle and shy. "Moreover, I can guarantee that little sister, you won't want to know what I'm doing." The youth in front of her clearly has a delicate appearance, and his smile is gentle and harmless, but Mayan shivers for no reason. She always feels that her third brother seems to be more and more abnormal. After returning to Yaoguang branch, Mayan immediately hides in her room. In fact, the holy benevolence technique consumes a lot of her strength. She can feel that the vitality in her body seems to have been drained. But she doesn't dare to show it in front of the people of the Xiaoyao school, for fear that they will make a fuss over nothing. She's even more afraid that fifth brother will feel guilty. At this time, Mayan can only rejoice. Fortunately, Di Mingju is dealing with the matters of the Shushan continent, and isn't in Yaoguang branch. Otherwise, if this man knew that she hurt herself to save others, he would never let it go. Just as this thought flashes through her mind, Mayan feels that something is wrong, and suddenly opens her eyes. A pair of icy blue eyes were right in front of her, staring at her without blinking. The moment she sees these eyes, Mayan's whole heart jumps up, thinking that Di Mingju has returned. When she comes back to her senses, she finds that the one staring at her is Xiao Bao. A thought flashes through her mind. Xiao Bao's eyes seem to be more and more similar to Di Mingju's. Of course, there were people with blue eyes in the three realms. But just now, for a split second, she really thought that the one looking at her was Di Mingju. Could this be what Bai Xie said, that people who spend a lot of time together will have the look of husband and wife, the look of father and son? Thinking that one day, she will become more and more like Di Mingju, Mu Yan couldn't help but burst into laughter. Unexpectedly, when Xiao Bao, who was already unhappy, saw her smile, his tender cheeks puffed up even higher. "I'm not happy," was written all over his face. Mu Yan reached out and held him in her arms, softly saying, "What's wrong with Xiao Bao? Why are you unhappy?" Xiao Bao was still unhappy. He twisted his little body and turned his back to Mu Yan, strongly expressing the feeling that baby is angry. Mu Yan said dejectedly, "Xiao Bao is ignoring Nyangqin. Does he not want Nyangqin anymore?" "I won't." The little guy's anger didn't last for a moment before he was immediately tricked back by Mu Yan. Hearing the sadness in his Nyangqin's voice, he immediately turns around, and wraps his short arms around Mu Yan's neck. Xiao Bao likes Nyangqin the most. Mu Yan hugs her son's soft little body, and kisses his cheek several times. Nyangqin also likes Xiao Bao the most. "So, Xiao Bao, don't be angry at Nyangqin, okay?" Chapter 18-20. Xiao Bao coyly nods and nestles on her, smelling his mother's fragrant scent. His eyelids are a little heavy. Ever since Daddy came back, Mommy has always been snatched away by him. Xiao Bao hasn't slept with Mommy for a long time. Mommy's smell is so good, Mommy's embrace is so warm. Xiao Bao likes it very much, he likes it the most in the world. Mommy, Xiao Bao will also quickly become stronger, protect, Mommy. Mu Yan looks at the sleeping Xiao Bao in her arms, gently removes his hair bun, and gently pats his back. As long as this little baby is by her side, she feels full of strength, and the road ahead is bright and hopeful. However, as a medical skill, the Saint of Benevolence does have many flaws. If she uses it again in the future, she's afraid that sooner or later, Xiao Bao, Di Mingju, or her fellow apprentices will discover it. Although the realm of stars can also treat illnesses, it takes too long and the effect isn't very good. Mu Yan sighs. The Shin musician inheritance is so magical. There are auxiliary skills, martial skills, alchemy, talismans, but how come there aren't any effective skills in the field of medicine? Qi Huang sneers, "You fool, don't you know that the most powerful skill of the Shin musicians is medicine? That Tian Yimen wasn't even fit to carry shoes for the Shin music sect." Mu Yan is startled. The most powerful is medicine. That can't be right. Then how come the medical skills I've learned now are of little value? The current medical skills of the Shin musicians include mist dispersing, Saint of Benevolence, and echo recovery. Mist dispersing is mainly used to disintegrate inner demons, and echo recovery is used to restore spiritual power and internal force. Both belong to the medical category, but they don't have any real therapeutic functions. Saint of Benevolence can treat illnesses, but it can be used to hurt oneself to save others, and it's just excessive anger. These three broken skills are useful for swallowing the surgery recorded in Bailey Liuin's notes and her own medical skills. Qi Huang hums twice. That's because you haven't broken through the third stage of the Shin musician realm, so naturally you can't master the strongest skills of the Shin musician realm. The third stage. The third stage of the Shin musician realm is the first stage. Now she is already at the second stage of the 5th level, and to break through the third stage, she has to reach the 7th level. Thinking about it, it didn't seem that far from level 5 to level 7. Doesn't that mean that she will soon be able to master the powerful Shin musician's medical skills? Chi Huang seems to have guessed what she's thinking, and he laughs disdainfully. Jun Mayan, stop dreaming. Let's not talk about upgrading the Shin musician skills from the 5th level to the 6th. However, if one wanted to advance from the 6th level to the 7th level, there was no need to mention how difficult it was to break through. It's impossible for this damaged Tian Mo Qin to withstand the power of a level 7 Shin musician technique. Mayan stares blankly. You mean? Jun Mayan, have you forgotten Ben Zun's reminder to hurry up and restore the Tian Mo Qin? Chi Huang is quite delighted in her misfortune. You don't take Ben Zun's words to heart. Now, if you want to rise to the 7th level of Shin musician and obtain a medical skill, you must first find the missing part of the Tian Mo Qin and fix it. Otherwise, you can continue to use Saint's benevolence in secret. Haha. After listening to Chi Huang's words, Mu Yan was really a little worried. She can still upgrade her Shin musician skills through diligent and bitter practice. Even if she's currently stuck at the peak of the fasting stage, there will always be a day when she can cross over. Chapter 1821. But where would she go to find the missing parts of the Tian Mo Qin? Tian Mo Qin needs to be repaired 3 times in total. The parts needed for these 3 restorations are placed in the Yanwu continent, the Shuzhen continent, and the Shuxian continent. The map in Bailey Liuin's notes only indicates the location of the Tian Mo Qin's restoration accessory on the Yanwu continent. But she had no information about the cultivation continent and the cultivation continent. How was she going to find them? Looking for a needle in a haystack? Moreover, because of the special identity of the Shin musician. According to the inherited memories left behind by Bailey Yinlu, the Shin musicians had offended all the sects in the 3 realms. He did it all over again. She even had some vague information in her mind. The polar domain was also a part of the people who shouted to kill the Shin musicians. Mu Yan doesn't know how much Di Mingju knows about her identity as a Shin musician. However, Chi Huang tried his best to stop her from confessing, and Chi Huang's identity could not be exposed in front of others. Therefore, she can't even tell Di Mingju about the matter of searching for the Tian Mo Qin's accessories. With her power alone, she could search the entire continent for something that she didn't even know what it was. Fuck, it would be a miracle if they could really find it. Oh, Yangqing had thought that she was going to die, but who knew that she would escape death? It was a blessing in disguise for him, as he was given the opportunity to stay in the Alcade branch school to recover from his injuries. Moreover, the person taking care of him was Ling Yuxing. Oh, Yangqing was so happy that she almost couldn't tell which way was north. However, he soon realized that something was wrong. Although Ling Yuxing took care of him, he remained silent the entire time and didn't make eye contact with him. As soon as he left the room, he smiled and talked to the people of the Xiaoyao sect. Oh, Yangqing's heart was filled with apprehension and jealousy, fear and longing. Even her original joy had turned into torment. This time, he finally couldn't help but grab hold of Ling Yuxing, who was about to leave after changing his gauze. Little Xing, can you listen to me? Ling Yuxing stopped and looked down at him, still not saying anything. Oh, Yangqing gritted her teeth and said, Little Xing, what happened back then? I don't want to talk about what happened in the past. Ling Yuxing interrupted him with a cold expression and turned to leave. I won't take what you said a few days ago to heart. I know you're just feeling guilty. Before he could finish, Oh, Yangqing suddenly pulled him down onto the bed and roared like an enraged beast, fuck your guilt. Ling Yuxing jumped in fright when he saw the bleeding wounds on Ouyang Qing's body. He quickly said, "Ouyang Qing, are you crazy? Why aren't you lying down? Your wounds are going to split open." Ouyang Qing's body was severely injured due to Wei Tiangong's self-detonation. Even the circulation of spiritual energy in her dantian and meridians was obstructed. Therefore, his wounds could not be healed in a short period of time. He could only use medicinal pills to nurse his body's injuries. But Ouyang Qing pressed him down and refused to budge. In a hoarse voice she said, "Shao Xing, you don't know anything. Back then, before you confessed to me, I already had a different kind of feeling for you. But at that time, I was bound by morals and ethics. I was afraid of the fact that I had fallen in love with a man, and I was also afraid of dragging you into the abyss of eternal damnation. That's why I desperately wanted to avoid you, but you're like an addiction that I can't get rid of. How can I avoid you? Afterwards, you were drugged and in a delirious state. You said that you liked me. I was simply wild with joy. My rationality and emotions were completely dominated by lust." Chapter 1822. You were the one who was drugged, but I was even crazier than you. There was only one thought in my mind, and that was to get you, to get the person I yearned for day and night, the person I loved madly, but never dared to touch. When I woke up the next day, my rationality returned, and I couldn't believe what I had done. Especially when I saw the scars on your body, I couldn't hide the joy in my heart, but at the same time, I was angry that I had dragged you down with me. But when you said that you didn't need me to take responsibility, these emotions all turned into anger. Ouyang Qing's voice was filled with unconcealable pain. I did something that I would never forgive myself for the rest of my life. I told you to get lost, and I pushed you out with my own hands. But as soon as you left, I regretted it. I went out to look for you like crazy, but Ouyang Mingzhu told me that you had left, gone to a faraway place, and would never return. I didn't believe it at first, but later on, even your father, brother, and even my father said that you had left, so I had no choice but to believe it. From then on, I couldn't stay at home for even a moment. There were traces of you everywhere, and if I stayed a moment longer, I felt that I would be tortured by regret and longing. Plop. Hot tears fell on Ling Yuxing's face, drop after drop. Shao Xing, I really didn't know that Wei Mingzhu would be so crazy. I'm sorry. It was I who made you suffer so much. It was I who hurt you so badly. Shao Xing, I don't expect you to forgive me. I only ask that you allow me to use the rest of my life to make up for the harm I've done to you. Ling Yuxing fell silent and did not speak for a long time. To Ouyang Qing, every moment that Ling Yuxing was silent was like rolling in the 18th level of hell. He waited for Shao Xing's judgment with hope and despair. Finally, he heard the young man's hoarse voice, "What if your father wants to stop us from being together? What if your father doesn't allow me to live in this world?" Ouyang Qing's heart tightened, and he suddenly grabbed his wrist, saying without hesitation, "I've said it before, no matter who stays by your side, they can't hurt you without my permission. For this, even if I have to go against the heavens, even if I'm doomed eternally, I won't hesitate." He gritted his teeth, and his eyes revealed a deep struggle. "I don't know if my father was one of the people who hurt you back then. No matter what Ouyang Xiangdong did, he's still my father. I can't promise you that I won't kill him. But little Xing, even if I die, I won't let him continue to hurt you. If he objects, I'll give up my identity as the Ouyang family's young master and roam the world with you. If you still want me." After she finished speaking, Ouyang Qing stared at Ling Yuxing without blinking. Her eyes were filled with anxiety, completely unlike the decisive senior Ouyang who had attracted the hearts of all the girls in the starry school. Instead, she looked like a pitiful wife who was afraid of being kicked out of the house. Pucci. Ling Yuxing was amused by his imagination. He flipped Ouyang Qing over onto the bed and said with a faint smile, "So, are you planning to marry into our Xiaoyao sect?" Ouyang Qing's eyes suddenly widened. She simply could not believe what she had heard. "Little Xing, you're willing to forgive me. You're willing to be with me." He secretly pinched his thigh. "It hurts, I'm not dreaming." Chapter 1823. Ling Yuxing was amused by his silly look. He blinked and said with a sly expression, "What? You don't want to marry into the Xiaoyao school?" No, I do." What a joke. As long as he could be with Xiaoxing again, he would be willing to marry into the Xiaoyao school, let alone marry into the Xiaoyao school. Ouyang Qing hugged the boy in his arms. Feeling the familiar breath of the boy, he felt that he wasn't dreaming. This was the greatest treasure of his life. He had lost his treasure once, but from now on, he would never lose it again. Oh, they're hugging each other, hugging each other. We're going to have a fifth sister-in-law in the future. Ha ha ha. Ouyang Qing, you idiot, why didn't you kiss her when you hugged her? Yeah, kiss her, kiss her. Chatter came from the door. Although it was very low, Ling Yuxing had just activated his domain and his 5 senses were very sharp. How could he not hear it? Expressionlessly, he walked to the door and pulled it open. Instantly, several figures rushed in from the outside. Ha ha ha, hello, fifth brother. Xiaowu, we're here to see if fifth sister-in-law has recovered. Mayan touched her nose. Ahem, fifth brother, what's your next plan? Do you want to go back to Cloud City? Back to Cloud City. Ling Yuxing was startled. The place that had once brought him joy and pain, did he still want to go back? Ouyang Qing grabbed his hand and said nervously, "Xiaoxing, go back with me. Don't you want to see your parents and brother?" Ling Yuxing smiled bitterly, "They won't want to see me." For the Ling family, his son was the shame of the whole family. Ouyang Qing said, "But a few years ago, I ran into your brother and he beat me up. He said that my Xiaoxing has been so obedient and sensible since he was a child. He would never force anything. It must be your Ouyang family's fault. He only hated that he couldn't get justice for his brother." Ling Yuxing was shocked. That's impossible. He still remembered the last time he saw his parents and brother. His parents were so sad and angry, and his brother told him to get out and never go back to the Ling family. Ouyang Qing said, "I swear to God, this is all true. Little Xing, they might have chased you away on impulse back then, but now they regret it. Don't you want to see them again?" Ling Yuxing's heart was in a mess. He had never told anyone that Ouyang Xiangdong had coveted his innate spiritual root. Therefore, from the beginning, he had made up his mind that he would never return to Cloudpiercer City in this life. However, Ouyang Qing's words caused his heart to waver. Would his parents and brother, who had doted on him and protected him so much, really be so heartless to him? Maybe they really forgive me. Mu Yan suddenly said, "Fifth senior brother, aren't we going to Purple Cloud Realm's Dragon Soaring Academy to participate in the Dear Cry banquet? It just so happens that I also want to bring Little Bao around. If fifth senior brother doesn't mind, why don't you be our guide and let us experience the cloud-piercing city at the border of the azure blue world?" Ling Yuma also grinned and said, that's right. No matter what kind of monsters and demons are in cloud-piercing city, us brothers will accompany you. It's naturally good if no one comes to cause trouble, but if there are really blind people who want to deal with fifth senior brother, we'll let them experience what the unfettered 7 devils are. Chapter 1824. Cough cough. Fourth senior sister, keep a low profile. We are clearly the Carefree 7 heroes. How did we become the carefree 7 devils? Ha ha ha. That's because our Xiaoyao sect's most powerful disciple is our junior sister, nicknamed the female demon. Since junior sister is a demon, then we, the unfettered 7, can only accompany junior sister in becoming a demon. Mu Yan pressed the blue veins on her forehead. She didn't want the title of she-devil at all, nor did she want to be one of the 7 devils of freedom. Thank you. Listening to the words of Mu Yan and his fellow apprentices, Ling Yuxing's eyes brightened up with a bright light. All the hesitation and fear in his heart seemed to have been blown away by a gust of wind. It was as if, as long as he had these senior and junior brothers and sisters by his side, as long as he was still a member of the unfettered 7, he would never have to be afraid or indecisive. Ling Yuxing composed himself and said in a deep voice, "All right, let's go to Cloudpiercer City." After so many years, he finally had the courage to return to that place and face the past and the future. During this period, the leaders of the 5 clans of the Azure Blue World stayed in the Starry School. On one hand, he wanted to ask Xiaobao for advice on how to improve the strength of his clan's little ancestors and unearth their innate talents. Secondly, he was shocked by the strength of the carefree team and wanted to witness it with his own eyes. Today, when he heard that Yun Ruhan and Mu Yan had come to bid farewell to Meng Baichuan and leave for the Purple Cloud Realm in advance, he couldn't help but be stunned. Nalan Qing stroked his beard and said, "You guys are rushing to the Purple Cloud Realm so early. Are you trying to get used to the strength of the strong early? This is also good. Perhaps this time, the result of our Azure Blue domain in the Deer Cry Grand Banquet will not be at the bottom without any ability to resist." The people of the Xiaoyao sect were stunned. Adapt to the strength of a powerful expert? However, before they could say anything, a young girl standing behind Nalan Qing couldn't help but say, "Grandpa, don't be alarmist. The carefree team wasn't as weak as they used to be. They had God Yi, the strongest support, who could even defeat Tian Haiba, a nascent soul cultivator. Even if he went to the Purple Cloud Realm, he would be invincible. Why would he need to adapt to the strength of some expert?" Nalan Qing shook his head. A frog at the bottom of a well, a frog at the bottom of a well. Dong, you don't understand how powerful those geniuses from the Dragon Soaring Academy are. The girl who spoke was called Nalan Dongyun. She was also Nalan Qing's granddaughter and the youngest generation of the Nalan family. However, her talent was not as good as Nalan Yan's, so she did not receive as much attention as Nalan Yan. However, not only is Nalan Dongyun not jealous of Nalan Yan, she even shamelessly pesters Nalan Yan after learning that her little cousin is coming to see Mayan. Because she was a die-hard fan of Jun Mayan, Yi Liangchen, and the Xiaoyao 7 sons. Even Grandpa couldn't tolerate anyone who slandered his idol. What's wrong with being a genius? Were the Xiaoyao 7 not geniuses? I don't care. Great God Yi, when you go to Longting Academy, you must beat those arrogant fellows until they're looking for their teeth all over the ground. Nalan Qing awkwardly shows a wry smile towards Mayan and the others, and then solemnly says, "Miss June, do you know, in the entire Shuzhen continent, how many people have awakened their domain before the age of 25? Then, without waiting for Mu Yan and the others to answer, he immediately said, "Less than 100 people. And of these 100 people, 90% were in the Purple Cloud Realm. And of the geniuses of the Purple Cloud domain, at least 30% will participate in the Deer Cry Grand Banquet." Hearing Nalan Qing's words, the faces of the people of the Xiaoyao sect and Mu Yan changed. Chapter 1825. No one knew better than them how difficult it was to awaken a domain and how big the gap in strength was after awakening a domain. In the entire Azure Blue world, there were no more than 100 people who had awakened a domain. But in the Purple Cloud Realm, there were already nearly 100 people who had awakened a domain at the age of 25. Murongbai also coughed lightly and said, "The Dear Cry Banquet of the Dragon Soaring Academy has always gathered talented cultivators from all regions of the Purple Cloud realm. I can tell you responsibly that almost every team that participates in the Dear Cry Banquet, with 10 people in a group, can win against a low-level nascent soul cultivator like Tian Haiba if they exert their full strength." Yun Ruhan and the others gasped. Even Mang Baichuan exclaimed, "No, that's impossible, right?" A team composed of young people, each person's strength was at most at the Golden Core stage, but every team could defeat a nascent soul cultivator. Isn't this a little too shocking? This is the difference between a real genius and an ordinary cultivator. Nailan Qing said in a deep voice, "Even if they are at the Anidia stage, do you think an ordinary Anidia cultivator can be compared with Miss June?" Nailan Dongyun said anxiously, "Even so, Great God Yi is still the strongest." The heads of the 5 families did not deny this point. Miss June's talent and strength are indeed the best I have seen in my life. I'm afraid that even in the Purple Cloud realm, there may not be anyone more talented than you. In fact, even the talent of the other members of the Xiaoyao team is far higher than others. But Lu Junjiang changed the topic. "Your cultivation is too low, none of you have broken through the Golden Core stage. In the Azure Blue world, with Miss June's support and her own talent and strength, you may be invincible. But in the Purple Cloud realm, facing those Golden Core cultivators who are as talented as you will face one hard battle after another. Especially you." Lu Junjiang's eyes swept over the people of the Xiaoyao sect. "Let's not talk about Miss June's monstrous strength. If you don't have a breakthrough before the Dear Cry Banquet, I'm afraid you will drag Miss June down." Lu Junjiang's words were not polite, and the hearts of the people of the Xiaoyao sect sank a little. However, deep in their hearts, they knew that it was true. Even if his junior sister had not broken through to the Gold Core stage, the gap between them was getting wider and wider. Only Chu Moli didn't have the slightest trace of panic on his face. There was only a gentle and serene smile on his face. He had already discovered this problem when Mu Yen was fighting against the 2 immortals by himself. This was the first time he had such a strong desire to become stronger. After Mu Yen and the others leave, Nailan Qing and the others look at the slowly closing door, their faces revealing a look of anticipation. Can they really set off monstrous waves at the Dear Cry Banquet? Don't forget, at the Dear Cry Banquet, there's also the Dragon Soaring Academy's Qilin team. That's a team composed of peerless geniuses rarely seen in 1,000 years. Until now, no team has been able to survive for more than an hour under their attacks. Who knows? Perhaps they can create a miracle. Murongbai's expression was deep and serene, with a trace of yearning. "I don't know why, but when I saw that little girl June Mayan, I felt that there were no miracles that she couldn't create." Chapter 1826. The 3 realms of Min LV, Azure Cloud, and Azure Blue had already been overturned by these 7 people, leaving behind traces that no one could ever erase. Who knew what kind of turbulent waves they would face when they stepped into the Purple Cloud realm? Nailan Qing suddenly remembered that before Mayan left, she had entrusted the 5 great families to take care of the Nether Flame Army. This was because she was not prepared to let the Nether Flame Army follow her to the Purple Cloud world. Instead, she wanted them to use the Azure Blue world as a base to lay low and slowly strengthen themselves. Nailan Qing and the others were naturally duty-bound to do this, but they couldn't help but sigh in shock. June Mayan was actually so at ease with this Nether Flame Army, allowing them to develop on their own. Wasn't she afraid that after such a force grew stronger, it would break away from her and become a hegemon, or be absorbed by other aristocratic families? Hearing Nailan Qing's question, the girl opposite him raised her eyebrows slightly, revealing a disdainful smile. "Of course I'm not afraid. To me, they are not my subordinates, but my family. One day, if they want to leave me, it won't be because they want to betray me. Instead, it will be because they feel that they can better help me. Nalan Qing stares blankly at the girl's flying smile. It's only when Mu Yan and the others have left that he suddenly comes back to his senses. Therefore, he was currently thinking the same thing as Murong Bai. That was, as long as Jun Mayan is here, any miracle is possible. He wondered if the Purple Cloud Realm was ready to welcome this demon-like magical girl. When the Nether Flame Army heard that Mu Yan did not allow them to follow them to the Purple Cloud World, all of them felt as though they were struck by lightning. Everyone's expressions were very gloomy, but there was not the slightest bit of complaint. Because they all knew that Mu Yan had left them here not to abandon them, but to protect them. In the end, they were still too weak. Even with Mu Yan's help, their true strength is only at the 3rd stage of Anidia, and the weak ones haven't even reached the stage of Anidia. Such a level of cultivation was already barely achievable in the Azure Blue Realm, let alone in the Purple Cloud Realm where experts gathered. Mu Yan clenches the storage ring in her hand. Inside were the elixirs, talismans, and cultivation manuals that she had prepared for the Nether Flame Army after pulling several all-nighters. Looking at the sad faces of the Nether Flame Army, her heart was filled with reluctance. But what could he do no matter how reluctant he was? Her Shin musician skills are not strong enough, especially when it comes to alchemy. There is no way for her subordinates to improve in a short time. Mu Yan opens her mouth, wanting to speak, but Ru Yan has already opened her mouth first with red eyes. I'm sorry, miss, it's all because we're too weak. Therefore, he had no choice but to separate as soon as he found the young miss. The sourness in Mu Yan's heart surged even more, and she even wanted to take them to the Ziyun world at all costs. No matter how difficult it was, he would protect his family. She remembered the painting that her apprentice, Liu Beiyu, showed her after their reunion. After she left, Liu Beiyu painted several hundred pictures. Each one is a scene of the underworld Flame Valley in the Yanwu continent. Some were training, some were eating, and some were laughing and playing. There were portraits of Yan Haoyan, Ru Yan, Bai Chen, and Shui Yan, who had already ascended. There are also figures of people like Old Tao, Fang Jingya, and Qin Qingfeng, who ultimately stayed in the Yanwu continent because they didn't have enough talent. Those who could not ascend did not have any complaints. Instead, they promised to guard the Netherflame Valley well. Let Mingyan Valley become the eternal pure land of the entire Yanwu continent. Chapter 1827. What moves Mu Yan the most is that these paintings clearly depict the scene after she and Xiao Bao left the Yanwu continent. But in the most conspicuous position of each painting, there is always a place for her and Xiao Bao. Liu Beiyu said that this is strongly requested by everyone in the Dark Flame Valley. Because only in this way can they feel that the Miss and the Little Master have always been with them, and have never left. Liu Beiyu draws 2 identical copies of each painting. One copy is brought up from Mayan to see, and the other is left in the Yanwu continent, so that those who couldn't ascend can have a remembrance of it. Mu Yan's heart suddenly surges with pride and excitement. She almost blurts out to ask them to go with her to the Ziyun realm. However, at this moment, Chu Moli's lazy voice interrupts, "Little junior sister, this group of subordinates of yours is really quite weak. If they go to the Ziyun realm, they won't even be enough to be cannon fodder." The term cannon fodder is something that the people of the Xiaoyao sect have just learned from Bai Xia. Mu Yan glares at Chu Moli. Does this abnormal third senior brother know how to speak? What does he mean by not even be enough to be cannon fodder? The mood of the Dark Flame Army becomes increasingly depressed. However, in the next moment, they hear Chu Moli's voice carrying a bit of excitement. However, being weak also has its advantages and benefits. Do you really hope to be able to help little junior sister one day? Hearing Chu Moli's words, the eyes of the Dark Flame Army brighten. Even Bai Chen, who has always been the most calm, can't help but speak up. How can we help the miss? In fact, there are many people in the Nether Flame Army who are outstanding elite warriors in the Yanwu continent. But in the Shuzhen continent, they have become as insignificant as ants. How can they, who are so insignificant, help the miss and the little master? Chu Moli, being weak means being insignificant, and also means that no one will take you seriously and deal with you as a target of public criticism. It just so happens that in dealing with the Tian family this time, the Dark Flame Army didn't really reveal themselves. Everyone's eyes were focused on little junior sister. Probably no one has carefully remembered your voices and appearances. Isn't this very good? Listening to Chu Moli's unhurried narration, the eyes of the Dark Flame Army brightened little by little. Rather than being a burden to little junior sister who has always been the focus of attention, you might as well find a way to better and quickly infiltrate your forces into every corner of the Shuzhen continent. Perhaps right now, the 2,000 people of the Dark Flame Army are insignificant. However, when they infiltrated into various industries and developed, they would slowly snowball, becoming more and more frightening the more it rolled. One day, it would become a huge force that would engulf the entire cultivation continent, and no one would be able to stop it. The scene Chu Moli describes is too beautiful. This caused the confusion and disappointment of the Nether Flame Army to be replaced by impassioned longing in an instant. In Xiao Bao Xia Xiao Xia's words, the Moli Tian's clan Xiao is Yang Xianlin is, his eyes is Yao sect master. With just 2 or 3 sentences, he was able to bluff thousands of people into a daze, completely losing their bearings. Lin and Xie Dong. Mu Xia Xia Chen Shaoli. Ling Chen Yen people of Xiao and Xia, Xiao Bao Xiao Shi King is Yang is Yang is Yang is Mo Mu Dong is sect. Xiao 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 Li, Yu Chen Chen Ling, he master Yen Chen Shi, the Chen Chen Yang Yang Chen Shi, Xiao Yen Chen Yen Dong of Shi Li is. Chapter 1828. Now, all the funds will be provided by little junior sister in the Tianguang ruins. With the ghastly Flame Valley as a secret base, and the Starry School and the 5 clans supporting you in the dark, you won't do worse than before and embarrass little junior sister, right? The 2,000 people in the square shouted in unison. Absolutely not. At this moment, the light in their eyes was as bright as the stars on a summer night, almost burning. Bai Xia said, TSK, little master, what am I saying? How is this the head of a pyramid scheme? He's basically a brainwashing expert. Chu Moli crooked his finger at Yan Haotian, Ru Yan, Bai Chen, and Feng Haitang. As I said earlier, your previous actions were too straightforward and one-track-minded. If you want to better infiltrate the various forces, your methods need to be more cunning and sinister. As he spoke, he lowered his voice and whispered something in the ears of the 4. Yan Haotian and the other 3 widened their eyes, their faces filled with shock as if a new world had opened up. Mu Yan finally could not take it anymore and said, "Third senior brother, don't lead my people astray." Only then did Chu Moli reluctantly take back his words. Meeting Mu Yan's warning gaze, he blinked innocently. Little junior sister, you worry too much. I'm just teaching them how to survive in the Azure Blue world. Ha, I think you're teaching them how to harm the people of the Azure Blue world. Chu Moli looked at Mu Yan meaningfully. Actually, little junior sister is also very clear about what path is best for them. That's why you asked the Nalan clan leader and the others, isn't it? Little junior sister, soft-heartedness and indecisiveness do not suit you. Yes, she understood the reasoning. It was just that for a moment, her emotions won over her rationality. But Chu Moli's words were like a bucket of cold water poured over her head, waking her up. Mu Yan took a deep breath and raised her voice. Netherfire army, listen up. Here. Thousands of Netherfire soldiers knelt in the square of the Alcade branch. Their movements were neat and uniform, their shouts shaking the sky. At this moment, there was no more confusion in their hearts, and there was only the resolution to press forward with indomitable will. Yen Haotian, step forward. Under Mu Yan's command, Yen Haotian immediately steps forward and kneels on one knee. From today onwards, you will lead the Ink camp and join all the major mercenary groups in the Shuzhen continent. You will even establish the strongest mercenary group. I want you to become a sharp knife that walks in the darkness, unstoppable and invincible. Yen Haotian's body trembled slightly. He unsheathed his long sword and stabbed it into the ground with a loud clang. Immediately after that, all the soldiers of the Ink camp kneel down in unison, suppressing their excitement as they shout in unison, "We obey Mrs. Orders." Ruyan, step forward. Ru Yan quickly steps forward, her red eyes are filled with reverence and longing as she looks at Mayan. From today onwards, you will lead the Tianji unit. With Qingguang ruins as a base, you will infiltrate the various industries of the cultivation continent. I want you to create a complete and meticulous intelligence network and make the Secret Heaven Division the most powerful spy organization on the entire cultivation continent. Ru Yan nodded heavily. I will obey Mrs. Command. Behind him, everyone in the Heavenly Secret Battalion yelled in unison, "Yes, young miss." Feng Haitang, step forward. Feng Haitang took a step forward and knelt on the ground. "Miss, please instruct me." Chapter 1829. I had thought that our Silver Plume Palace's first young mistress would be able to gain the Emperor's favor. Who would have known that she had angered the Emperor instead? Just as we were wondering how to make up for it, we accidentally saw a portrait in the Emperor's hands. The people of the Tuolyo tribe discovered a beauty that looked very similar to the woman in the portrait. We tried our best to get her. This is all thanks to the rosemary fragrance that Lord Star Wolf gave me. If not, if I wasted more effort and let that girl know what kind of person she has climbed up to, I'm afraid that she would continue to pester me and try to climb up the dragon and the phoenix. Han Ye's complexion becomes increasingly unsightly. He recalled that when he entered the house just now, he seemed to have smelled the faint scent of rosemary. At that time, he thought it was an illusion, but he didn't expect it to be. In that case, the woman was really in the room. And Jun Shang also, but how could this be? If Jun Shang favors another woman, what will happen to Miss Jun? With Miss Jun's unyielding temperament, if she knew that Jun Shang had another woman, how could she still be willing to marry Jun Shang? At that time, little Ing would be so sad and furious when she found out. When Xing Lang heard this, he patted the middle-aged man's shoulder and laughed heartily. For a woman like that, to be favored by the Lord is already her greatest honor. She doesn't need to know anything else, in case she thinks too much. Elder Ji, you've done well. Jun Shang and I will remember your contributions. Ji Zhiping was overjoyed when he heard this. In the Silver Plume Palace, he and Hua Xiangrong's father, Hua Zhangbai, were both elders and vice palace masters. The Silver Feather Palace Lord was old, but his cultivation had reached its limit and was unable to break through. His lifespan might not be long. Next, the person who could ascend to the position of Palace Lord would probably be between him and Hua Zhangbai. This time, when the Emperor came to the cultivation continent, the two of them tried their best to curry favor with him, hoping to stabilize their position as Palace Lord by pleasing the Emperor. Hua Zhangbai, that shameless fellow, in order to curry favor with the monarch, he actually sent his daughter to seduce the monarch. Fortunately, the Emperor didn't like Hua Xiangrong at all. That was why he was given this opportunity. Ji Zhiping couldn't help but be overjoyed at the thought of the beauty he had presented to the Emperor. The position of Silver Feather Palace Master would most likely belong to him. Han Yi ruthlessly punches the wall, gnashing his teeth in hatred. At this moment, the door to the room opened. Di Mingju's tall figure slowly walks out. On his usually cold and arrogant face, there was a rare trace of contentment and tenderness. Just looking at Jun Shang's expression, Han Ye's heart sinks a little. Di Mingju frowns as he sees the few people standing at the door. Star Wolf and Ji Jiping hurriedly kneel down. Greetings, Lord/Emperor. Han Ye's body stiffens for a long time before he slowly kneels down, but he doesn't say anything. Di Mingju doesn't ask them what they're doing at the door, but opens his mouth heavily. Where's Ying Mei? Star Wolf didn't say anything because he didn't know where Ying Mei was. Instead, he turns his gaze towards Han Yi. It's just that Han Ye's complexion becomes increasingly unsightly. I don't know, what business does Jun Shang have with Ying Mei? Di Mingju says faintly, tell her to come and guard. Han Yi couldn't bear it any longer, and angrily says, even if Ying Mei wants to protect someone, she would only protect Miss Jun Shang. If you want to recruit people to protect that woman inside, you should find someone else. Ying Mei doesn't even want to see that kind of woman. Chapter 1830. As soon as Han Yi thinks of Ying Mei's grief and anger after knowing that Jun Shang has fallen in love with someone else, he can't control his emotions. Di Mingju raises his eyebrows, his eyes slightly narrowing. However, without waiting for him to speak, a languid voice comes from inside the room. Han Yi, haven't seen you for a few months, have your guts grown fat? Little Ying, do you really not want to see me? As soon as this voice is heard, Han Yi looks up in disbelief. A woman with shoulder-length hair, dressed in a white dress, slowly walked out of the house. The sunlight shone on her delicate skin, making her look even more beautiful and otherworldly. Han Ye's eyes suddenly go wide, his mouth gaping open, and he loudly mumbles, June. June. Miss June. But he's unable to say a complete sentence. However, before he could regain his rationality, Di Mingju has already turned around in anger, wrapping his clothes around the woman's body. Without waiting for anyone to protest, he carried him horizontally and walked into the house. Di Mingju, what are you doing? Mu Yan is furious. With a cold expression, Di Mingju closes the door with a bang, cutting off Han Yi and Xing Lang's line of sight. Who allowed you to come out dressed like this? Mu Yan looks down at the translucent clothes on her body, and says with a smile that isn't a smile, what's wrong with these clothes? I think it's pretty good. It was your people who put it on for me in order to present me to you. Di Mingju's complexion turns even darker. He directly throws the person on the bed, pulling the quilt and wrapping her up tightly. Mu Yan struggles, but she can't break free. She rolls her eyes, pulls Di Mingju's collar, and her soft cherry lips are reflected on his. Di Mingju's hand that was shackling him immediately loosens, and he reaches out to pull the person into his embrace. The kiss was deep and passionate. Qi's heart was stirred. But just as Di Mingju is about to push her down on the bed and execute her on the spot, Mayan flips over and breaks free, a sly smile appearing on her face. Di Mingju, I'm hungry. Di Mingju's eyes are slightly red, and he reaches out to pull her into his arms. Yen Yen, I'm hungry too. That pair of devouring eyes seem to be itching to swallow her skin and bones. Mu Yan swallows her saliva. He suddenly remembered last night. In the beginning, the effects of the drug took effect and she wanted to eat him up. In the end, when the effects of the drug were gone, a certain someone refused to stop. In the end, the one who was eaten up and begged for mercy was naturally her. Her cheeks blushed at the thought of last night. She was not embarrassed, but angry. Di Mingju looks at her appearance, but he also remembers last night. The corner of his mouth hooks up into a wicked smile. Yen Yen, Ben Jun thinks that Ben Jun can continue to be your antidote. What fucking antidote? She never wanted this kind of antidote in her life. Seeing that Di Mingju's eyes are getting deeper, Mu Yan immediately shows a pitiful expression. Di Mingju, I'm really hungry. Do you know how much I've missed the delicacies you've made? He knew that the naughty girl in his arms was deliberately teasing him and making him uncomfortable. Hearing Mian's words, Di Mingju's heart is still unreasonably soft. He takes a deep breath, suppressing all the desires in his body. He stretches out a finger and gently scrapes the tip of the girl's nose. Wait for me in the room, you're not allowed to run around. You're not allowed to wear this and let anyone see you. The last sentence is said through gritted teeth. Mu Yan's eyes and brows curve into a smile. Di Mingju, you look so cute when you're jealous. Chapter 1831. As for the Xiaoyao sect, they had always stayed in that desolate place, day after day. Master didn't let them leave, and they couldn't escape the cage that was woven for them in the past. And then, a girl appeared. She became their junior sister, the new disciple of the Xiaoyao sect. Then, everything started to change. Yun Ruhan couldn't help but look at Mu Yan. Mu Yan immediately said in high spirits, eldest senior brother, tell us, what are the origins of master and junior martial uncle? Actually, she was also quite interested in the background of the abnormal third brother. Yun Ruhan couldn't help but clench his fists. He couldn't help but look at everyone present, and finally at Luo Yu. Junior uncle's habits changed. Qin Zhou's mentality changed. Xiaowu's fate became completely different. Would one day, the other people of the Xiaoyao sect also usher in a different life? Big brother. Mu Yan waved her hand in front of his eyes. Yun Ruhan suddenly came back to his senses. He smiled and was about to say something. Suddenly, there was a noise behind him. Little bastard, you're tired of living, how dare you bump into me? Yo, you're not bad looking. If I sell you to Golden Inn, that specializes in children, I'm sure I can get a lot of crystals. As soon as the voice fell, the smiles on the faces of the people of the Xiaoyao sect disappeared, and they all looked not far away. At this time, they were resting in a restaurant called Huankai Pavilion, in Cloud City. This Huankai Pavilion was very interesting. The food was not ordered according to the menu, but in the backyard, they killed and cooked the ominous beasts. Just now, Xiao Bao obediently said that he would order the food. The people of the Xiaoyao sect were so touched that they wanted to cry. Their martial nephew was so good. The best in the world. Obedient, sensible, and very capable. Only Mu Yan, looking at the fat rabbit jumping restlessly in Xiao Bao's arms, knew. This fat rabbit must be greedy and wanted to eat the ominous beasts in other people's restaurants. Don't be fooled by Xiao Bao's cold appearance, and he often disliked his spirit pet and sword spirit. But he still spoiled the fat rabbit, Little Phoenix, and Bai Xia. Mu Yan touched his little face, and told him to be careful, so he went to the backyard to order the food. Devour at this time, in the middle of the hall, there was a conflict between Xiao Bao and a fierce-looking middle-aged man. The middle-aged man didn't look where he was going and bumped into Xiao Bao, causing the food in his hand to spill. In the end, the villain was the first to complain, cursing at Xiao Bao. Mu Yan, Yun Ruhan, and the others all had cold expressions on their faces, but none of them moved. The surrounding customers couldn't help but exclaim. Ah, where's the child's family? Why aren't you coming out to save him? Idiot, didn't you see that the man's clothes are from the Ouyang family? Provoking the Ouyang clan in cloud-piercing city, wasn't that the same as courting death? Even if the child's parents were there, I'm afraid they wouldn't dare to come out now, right? Sigh, it's a pity that the little doll was sold to Jean Manlu just like that. What a pity. I heard that Jean Manlu's children were also sent to the Ouyang family. In the end, none of them came out alive. Hearing the discussions, Ouyang Qing's face turned ashen. In fact, ever since Ling Yuxing left, he rarely returned to Cloudpiercer City. He almost didn't care about the Ouyang clan's affairs. Until this time, when he reunited with Ling Yuxing in the Starry School, he felt that there was something fishy about what happened back then. Chapter 1832. He wants to regain control of the Ouyang family and avenge Ling Yuxing. The Ouyang family's influence is mainly divided into two parts, the surface and the secret. The secret part is controlled by the heirs of the Ouyang family. Since Ouyang Xiangdong went into seclusion, it has always been in the hands of Ouyang Qing. But in order to find Ling Yuxing these years, he has secretly sent them out. And the Ouyang family's surface power is said to be in the hands of the family head, Ouyang Xiangdong. But Ouyang Xiangdong is in seclusion all year round, so this part of the power has always been controlled by Madame Ouyang Wei Kaizhu. Ouyang Qing didn't expect that in just a few short years, Wei Kaizhu has actually used the Ouyang family's power to turn cloud-piercing city into a foul atmosphere. He stands up with an ashen face and is about to save Xiao Bao, but Ling Yuxing pulls him back to his seat. Ling Yuxing lightly snorts. Want to touch my martial nephew? First look at yourself first. This kind of Tom, Dick, and Harry isn't even fit to carry my family's Xiao Bao's shoes. Ouyang Qing just remembered that the little baby in front of him is not an ordinary baby, but the son of their family Xiao Xing's most awesome and abnormal junior sister, Jun Mayan. Under the siege of thousands of fasting stage cultivators, that evildoer child is unstoppable. On the other side, the middle-aged man has already reached out to grab Xiao Bao's lapel. Xiao Bao's icy blue eyes don't have a trace of warmth, and he slightly raises his hand. But before he could make a move, a black shadow suddenly flashed past. Something smashes into the middle-aged man's face. There's only a smacking sound, and the middle-aged man screams, his mouth suddenly full of blood. When he opens his mouth again, those two front teeth have already been smashed and fell. The one who did it is a man in a black cloak in the corner. The man's appearance is completely covered under the hood, making it hard to see clearly. After throwing the chopsticks, he picks up another pair, leisurely eating, as if he didn't do anything just now. Who dares to make a move against me? The middle-aged man's front teeth are knocked out, and his words leak air. His eyes are full of malevolence as he fiercely glares at the cloaked man, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. This father will tear you apart. The cloaked man raised his eyes. Just as he was about to make a move, the fat rabbit in Xiao Bao's arms suddenly jumped up and smashed into the middle-aged man's back. The man let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered and lay on the ground, unable to get up again. The fat rabbit jumped up and down on his back, very arrogant. The man in the cloak looked over in surprise, his gaze shifting between the fat rabbit and Xiao Bao. Do you know who I am? How dare you injure me in Cloudpiercer City? You must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's gall. The middle-aged man roared out in rage, his voice reverberating throughout the entire inn. Everyone here today, I will not let them off. Before he could finish his sentence, a foot suddenly stepped on his head and pressed him to the ground. How are you going to be rude to me? Son of a bitch, let go of me. I am the Ouyang family. The middle-aged man's voice came to an abrupt halt. His gaping mouth revealed that he had lost two front teeth. Blood flowed down to his neck, but he didn't feel it at all. He raised his head, looking at Ouyang Qing, who was looking down at him, before stammering, Young master. Ouyang Qing laughed coldly. Wei Caiju's management of the Ouyang family is truly exceptional. Chapter 1833. Young master, spare me, spare me. I'm the nephew of Madame's trusted aide, Butler Li. You can't kill. The middle-aged man's eyes show fear, screaming for mercy. Ouyang Qing doesn't wait for him to finish speaking. The sword in his hand has already been devoured. The sword has already entered his heart from his back. Everyone in the restaurant is stunned. All eyes are focused on Ouyang Qing. After a long while, someone exclaims, Young Master Ouyang is back. Young Master Ouyang is back. Does that mean that the person in charge of the Ouyang family will change hands? In the future, we won't have to suffer Madame Ouyang's bullying anymore. Everyone knows that the heir of the Ouyang family isn't the current Madame's child. And Ouyang Qing's return represents that Wei Kaiju, who is currently tyrannical in the Ouyang family, has come to an end. Ouyang Qing doesn't pay attention to the surrounding people's discussion, and turns to approach Ling Yuxing. In a place where others can't see, he covers their hands with his sleeve, and holds Ling Yuxing's hand tightly in his palm. Shaoxing, do you want to follow me back to the Ouyang family to settle accounts with Wei Kaiju first, or go to the Ling family first? Ling Yuxing ponders for a moment, then says, I want to go back to the Ling family. On the other side, Mu Yan holds Xiao Bao's hand, walks in front of the cloaked man, and smiles gratefully. Many thanks for the help just now, fellow Daoist. Hearing the girl's clear and melodious voice, the cloaked man raises his head. A clear and handsome face suddenly falls into Mu Yan's eyes. Seeing this face, Mu Yan stares blankly. The man also stares blankly. For a moment, both of them lose the ability to speak, and the air inexplicably becomes quiet. Xiao Bao also blinks, looking at his mother, then at the uncle who just helped him. He can't help but tilt his head. Why does he feel that this uncle is somewhat similar to his mother? Yes, this face hidden under the cloak is 30% similar to Mu Yan's. Originally, 30% similarity isn't a big deal, and at first glance, it wouldn't be shocking. But the problem is, the most similar place between this man and Mu Yan is in their eyes. A pair of peach blossom eyes that are almost identical. Only, one is beautiful and charming, while the other is romantic and elegant, exuding a righteous aura. Even if one looked at these two pairs of peach blossom eyes, one could easily tell that they were two completely different people. Moreover, one was a man and the other was a woman. The man opened his mouth and asked, What's your name? Before Mu Yan could speak, she heard Luo Yu's noisy voice behind her, 6th senior sister, let's pack up all our food. We'll eat on the way to 5th senior brother's house. Because of the middle-aged man's disturbance in Ouyang Qing's appearance, the Huankai pavilion became noisy, making it impossible for them to calm down and eat. Mu Yan turns her head and responds, then turns around to leave. Halfway there, she turns around and says with a slight smile, My name is Jun Mayan, may I know Gongzi's name? His surname is Jun. The cloaked man muttered and couldn't help but shake his head. Then he smiled and said, My name is Ning Su. Ouyang Manor. Wei Kaiju jumped up from her chair when she heard her subordinate's report. What did you say? Mingzhu is dead. The Wei clan was destroyed. How is that possible? The subordinate kneeled on the ground, shivering, and said in a trembling voice, It's absolutely true, the news just came from Tsangyan City. Chapter 1834. Who killed my Mingzhu? Who destroyed the Wei clan? The subordinate said in a panic, I heard from Tsangyan City that it was an organization called the Unfettered Seven Demons. The news of the Unfettered Seven Demons had spread across Min LV, Qingyun, and Kanglan realms. But because of the special location of Cloud-Piercing City, the news would come later. Wei Kaiju obviously had never heard of it. What unfettered 7 demons? Did they eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? Don't they know that Mingzhu is from the Ouyang clan? The person kneeling on the ground shook his head, then said with a serious expression, I haven't found out where the unfettered 7 demons came from. I only know that they are a few rising starry school students, and they are said to be very powerful. But I asked the survivors of the Wei clan, they said that among the people who destroyed the Wei clan, they saw. What did they see? They saw the young master and Ling Yuxing from back then. What? The coral bracelet in Wei Caiju's hand fell to the ground, and her voice suddenly rose. Ouyang Qing. Why would he destroy the Wei clan? Why would he attack Mingzhu? Did he know? Wei Caiju's expression became more and more panicked. And that Ling Yuxing, wasn't he dead? Why would he come back? Madam. Get out. Get out. Wei Kaiju fiercely kicked the person kneeling on the ground. A bunch of trash. Hurry up and investigate for me. What's going on? My Mingzhu will not die. Go and save her for me. The subordinate ran out frantically, but Wei Kaiju paced back and forth in the room in frustration. Her heart was filled with anger and anxiety, and fear at the same time. Just then, the door was suddenly knocked open, and a white-haired old man stumbled in. Madam, bad news, bad news. Wei Kaiju was in a rage at the moment. Hearing the unlucky yelling, she could not help but slap him. What are you yelling for? Don't you think I'm annoying enough? If it wasn't her trusted aide, Butler Li, who had raised her since she was a child, she would have long been dragged out and beaten to death. Steward Li fell to his knees with a thud, his face full of fear as he said, Madam, my nephew was killed in the Huankai Pavilion. It's just a nephew, it doesn't matter if he's dead. You even bother me with this kind of thing. But madam, the person who killed my nephew was the young master. Wei Kaiju suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Butler Li in disbelief. Steward Li's entire body trembled. There was no sorrow for his nephew's death in his eyes, only panic and fear. Along with young master came that Ling Yuxing. Wei Kaiju screamed, that shameless bitch is actually still alive. Kill him. Hurry and get someone to kill him for me. Butler Li, madam, that Ling Yuxing is with young master now. Moreover, young master has spread the word in the Huankai Pavilion that he will come and settle the score with madam. When young master left the Ouyang clan for the Starry School, the Ouyang clan's hidden death warriors followed young master. Moreover, young master has been in control of the Ouyang clan for so many years, his influence in the Ouyang clan is still there. If he really wants to attack madam, we will be in big trouble. Chapter 1835. Wei Kaiju paced back and forth in the room, unable to hide the panic and fear on her face. At this moment, she couldn't even spare any attention to worry about the safety of her daughter, Wei Mingzhu. He was only afraid that his wealth and status would be lost. Why did Ouyang Qing want to destroy the Wei family? Could it be that he knows that Mingzhu is the daughter of Wei Zhongming and me? Furthermore, he even knew that he and the Wei clan were the ones who killed his mother. If Ouyang Qing really knew everything, he would never let him off. As for Wei Kaiju, this Madame Ouyang's title sounded glorious, but in fact, it was not even fart. The authority of the Ouyang clan had always been firmly in the hands of Ouyang Xiangdong and Ouyang Qing. Otherwise, she wouldn't have tried so hard to get her daughter into Ouyang Qing's bed. The more Wei Kaiju thought about it, the more frightened she became. She suddenly pushed the door open and rushed towards the secret chamber where Ouyang Xiangdong was in seclusion. No, she couldn't just sit and wait for death. In the Ouyang clan in Cloudpiercer City, the only one who could deal with Ouyang Qing was the current patriarch of the Ouyang clan. It was her husband, Ouyang Xiangdong. Although she thought so, Wei Caiju's heart was still filled with apprehension when she pushed open the door to Ouyang Xiangdong's secret chamber. Over the years, Ouyang Xiangdong had become more and more obsessed with closed-door cultivation. He basically didn't even care about the Ouyang family's affairs. His temperament was also becoming more and more temperamental by the day. In the past, Wei Kaiju still dared to act coquettishly in front of him, but now, every time she saw Ouyang Xiangdong, she felt a chill run down her spine. During this period of time, there were also some people in the Ouyang family who wanted to fight for power. Ouyang Xiangdong didn't care at all. However, the strange thing was that those people who were clamoring to replace the Ouyang family's family head would disappear without a trace in less than 2 days. Slowly, no one in the Ouyang family dared to cause trouble anymore. Wei Kaiju controlled the Ouyang family with the identity of Madame Ouyang. She knew very well that no matter how arrogant and despotic she was outside, as long as she did not anger Ouyang Xiangdong, her position would be stable. Wei Kaiju composed herself and slowly pushed the door open. As soon as he stepped in, an eerie, bone-piercing chill hit him in the face. Then, a hand that was as cold as ice cubes clasped her neck. The hoarse and cold voice sounded like it came from hell. Wei Kaiju, I thought you had some brains. You know how to be obedient, how to live like a dog. Wei Kaiju was scared out of her wits. Her whole body trembled like a sieve. Her mouth was open for a long time, but no sound came out. Until the hand on his neck tightened again. Wei Kaiju screamed, Ling Yuxing. Ling Yuxing is back. He paused in the act of digging his nails into her throat. In the darkness, Wei Kaiju heard the man licking his lips with his tongue, swallowing something. Ling Yuxing, is it that delicious prey with rare spatial talent? Wei Kaiju nodded frantically. Yes, it's that little bitch. He and Ouyang Qing annihilated the Wei clan and killed our daughter, Mingzhu. Now, they have arrived at Cloud-Piercing City. Master, you must seek justice for my Wei family and Mingzhu. We've already arrived at Cloudpiercer City. The man's voice grew more and more excited, and his throat even made a gurgling sound. Good. Good. That was great. This seat only needed a little bit more to achieve great success in this divine art. This is the best nourishment for me, ha 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 ha. The reason Wei Kaiju came to find Ouyang Xiangdong was because she suddenly remembered that Ouyang Xiangdong also seemed to want something from Ling Yuxing. Chapter 1836. Ouyang Xiangdong wanted it back then, but what about now? Would he want it too? If Ouyang Xiangdong wanted to touch Ling Yuxing, would Ouyang Qing allow it? At that time, the father and son would turn against each other, and she would be able to reap the benefits. Sure enough, after hearing her words, Ouyang Xiangdong's reaction was as expected. Wei Kaiju suppressed the excitement in her heart, stood up, and said, Master, now that little bitch Ling Yuxing is going to the Ling family with Ouyang Qing. I will arrange people to catch them. With that said, she turned to leave. However, just as she walked to the door, she suddenly felt a hand clasping her head. Immediately afterward, Wei Kaiju was horrified to find that the spiritual power and vitality in her body were madly rushing to the top of her head, and then they were all absorbed by the big hand above her. Ah! Ah! Master, spare me! Spare me! Wei Kaiju widened her eyes in horror and turned her head to look. At this time, the light outside the room shone in and finally illuminated the figure in the darkness. She saw the man who was close at hand and smiling at her. The expression on Wei Caiju's face became more and more horrified. You are not master. Who are you? He, you don't need to know who I am anymore. The man stretched out his scarlet tongue and licked it gently. Cloud-piercing city and Ouyang family, these two damn places, I have stayed long enough, and I am tired of staying. When I swallow the most delicious prey, I will master the divine power, and all of you can die. Ha 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 ha. Wei Caiju's eyes widened, and her face was full of regret and despair. What kind of demon was she asking for help? But now, it was too late to regret. At the door between light and dark, Wei Caiju's body slowly fell. But the horror was that what fell on the ground was not a complete body, but only a bag of skin. His flesh, blood, and bones had all disappeared without a trace. This is my home. Looking at the dilapidated house in front of him, Ling Yuxing looked at Ouyang Qing in disbelief. A few years ago, when Ling Yuxing left Cloud-piercing City, the Ling family still lived in the most flourishing location in the city. Although their house was far from being as luxurious as the Ouyang family's, it still had the magnificent courtyard art museum. However, the house in front of him was located in the most remote corner of Cloud-piercing City, and it only had 2 entrances. The outer walls of the house were peeling off everywhere, and there were many traces of repair on the roof. In the cultivation continent, even a mortal would not live in such a desolate place. Moreover, Father Ling was a cultivator at the peak of Anidia. Ouyang Qing sighed and said, "Since you left, uncle and auntie have completely cut off their relationship with the Ouyang family. No matter how hard I tried to stop them, they would move to this place. The Ling family's things, whether it's the things I gave you in the past or the things father gave uncle, as long as it's related to the Ouyang family, they didn't take a single one." Coupled with Wei Caiju's constant pressure, the Ling family's days were getting worse. Ling Yuxing's hand pressed against the dusty, dilapidated door. He didn't know what he was feeling right now. His mind was still recalling the words his parents had scolded him back then. But at this time, seeing this dilapidated house, he couldn't help but regret it. For so many years, why didn't he think of coming back to see if his father, mother, and brother were doing well? The hand that pressed against the door exerted force. The wooden door creaked and was pushed open. Chapter 1837. What he saw was a deserted courtyard. A woman in coarse hemp clothes was sewing something with her head down. Her hair had turned white, and her eyesight was not very good. Furthermore, the clothes she was sewing had defensive attributes, so she had to sew according to the refining runes on the clothes. Therefore, every stitch was extremely strenuous. Seeing this, Ling Yuxing's eyes turned red, and he shouted, "Mother!" His voice startled the woman in the courtyard, and she slowly raised her head. When she saw Ling Yuxing, the woman's eyes suddenly widened, and she shouted in disbelief, "Little Sheng!" The needles and clothes in her hands fell to the ground, and she staggered to stand up, rubbing her eyes. Her voice was hoarse and trembling, "Little Sheng, why are you here?" Ling Yuxing cried and rushed over, kneeling in front of the woman. He couldn't hold back his tears anymore. "Mother, I'm sorry, your unfilial son came back late." The woman's hand trembled, and she wanted to reach out and touch his head. However, the next moment, Ling Yuxing suddenly felt a strong force hit him, and his whole body was hit by a whip. How fast was Ling Yuxing? Even before he awakened his domain, his speed was already very fast. At this moment, how could he be hit by a mere whip? But when he saw who the whip was, he stopped in his tracks and took a hit. Little Sheng. Little Five. Ouyang Qing and the people of the Xiaoyao school nervously rushed over. However, Ling Yuxing blocked their movements. He looked at the middle-aged man who was waving the whip, and choked with sobs, "Father." Shut up, I'm not your father, and I don't have a shameless son like you. Then, the middle-aged man swung the whip in his hand. Ouyang reached out and grabbed the whip, not letting it hit Ling Yuxing. Uncle Ling, listen to us. Before Ouyang could finish, Ling Yuxing's father already cursed, "What uncle? I have nothing to do with your Ouyang family, and this shameless thing. All of you, get out of the Ling family." Ling Yuxing looked at Father Ling, then looked at Mother Ling, whose eyes were red, and could not help but choke with sobs. "Father, Mother, do you really not want to see me that much?" Ling's mother turned her head, avoided his eyes, and her voice returned to the same cold as before. "At that time, we had made it very clear that you were with a man, which was to lose the face of our Ling family. Xiaoxing, you'd better leave." Hearing even his mother say so, Ling Yuxing only felt his heart being poured cold. Suddenly, a young man rushed out from behind Father Ling and fiercely pushed Ling Yuxing. "Didn't you hear Father and Mother telling you to scram? Our Ling family doesn't welcome you, and Cloud-Piercing City doesn't welcome you either. Scram as far as you can." The one who rushed out was Ling Yuxing's brother, Ling Yuhao. The clothes on his body were also dusty. He was clearly not even 30 years old, but his appearance seemed to have been through the vicissitudes of life. His back was even a little hunched. But at this time, the way he scolded Ling Yuxing was like a raging lion. Ouyang supported Ling Yuxing, who was almost pushed down, and loudly said, "Uncle, Auntie, Brother Ling, what happened that year was not Xiaoxing's fault. If you want to blame someone, blame me." Chapter 1838. Who else can we blame but him? Ling Yuhao roared hysterically, "If it wasn't for him, how could my engagement have been ruined? How could I have been expelled by Master? Our Ling family moved from our original mansion to this dilapidated place. Isn't it all because of him? Now, he actually has the face to come back. Is it because he thinks that he hasn't harmed us enough? Is it because he wants us to leave Cloudpiercer City?" Ling Yuhao's eyes stared fixedly at the pale-faced youth in front of him who was on the verge of collapse. "Ling Yuxing, if you still have a little bit of conscience and a little bit of self-awareness, then get the hell out of Cloudpiercer City immediately and never appear before us again." The people of the Xiaoyao sect couldn't bear it anymore. Ling Yuma sneered, "Did my fifth brother kill someone or let me go? Why do you look down on him so much? Just because he likes men. So you don't even want to recognize him as your son? Are there any cold-blooded parents and brothers like you in this world?" Luo Yute said with a straight face, "Feelings can't be forced. Liking men or liking women isn't something that fifth brother can choose for himself. It's fine if others don't understand fifth brother, but you, as his family, treat him like this. You don't deserve to be his parents." Ling Yuma and Luo Yu's words didn't make the Ling family feel ashamed. Instead, their expressions became colder. Even Ling Yuhao's mother put away her reluctance and said coldly, "Liking men is disgusting and perverted. Although our Ling family is a small family, we have always been clean and will never tolerate a son who tarnishes our family's reputation. Ling Yuxing, if you still remember how we raised you, get out of the Ling family, get out of Cloud City, and never let us see you again." Ling Yuhao said, "Yes, get out. Don't ever come back." Ling Yuhao's father lashed out with his whip again, and Ouyang quickly blocked it for Ling Yuxing. "Did you hear that? Get out of here, all of you." The shabby wooden door was slammed shut. Even outside, the Ling family's roars and curses could be heard. The sunlight was obviously warm when it fell on his body, and the breeze was gentle when it caressed his face, but Ling Yuxing only felt a bone-chilling coldness. Ouyang hugged him tightly. Her voice was cold and trembling, and her heart was bleeding. "It's my fault, it's all my fault. Xiaoxing, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let you come back. Little Xing, don't be sad. They don't want you, I want you. Let's go, let's leave cloud-piercing city now. I don't want to stay a moment longer in this damned place. He was different from Ling Yuxing. The father-son relationship between him and Ouyang Xiangdong had always been thin. Coupled with the fact that he had not been home for the past 2 years and Ouyang Xiangdong had been engrossed in his cultivation, the father-son relationship between the two had long been worn away. Before Ling Yuxing was discovered to have feelings for him, Ling father, Ling mother, and Ling Yuhao doted on him, this youngest son. Even though they had betrayed Ling Yuxing when he was at his most miserable. However, there was still a trace of hope in Ling Yuxing's heart. Perhaps, his parents and brother were really just angry for a moment, and after the anger subsided, they would forgive him. But that wasn't the case. He recalled the disgusted eyes of his parents and brother, the vicious insults, and the merciless act of driving him away. Ling Yuxing only felt a pain in his chest, and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 1839. Shaoxing. Xiaowu. Bastard, I'll go in and teach them a lesson right now. Do you think our family Xiaowu can be trampled by just anyone? Ling Yuxing stopped the furious Ling Yuma and the murderous Ouyang Qing. He stood up shakily, knelt down in front of the closed door, and kowtowed 3 times. When he raised his head again, there was a big wound on his forehead, and blood was flowing out. But he didn't even wipe it, and said hoarsely, "Father, mother, brother, don't worry, I will never come back." Saying that, he took out a Qinkuan bag and threw it over the wall. "This is my savings for the past few years. Consider it as my repayment for your kindness in raising me." After saying that, he wiped the tears and blood on his face, stood up, and walked back to the Xiaoyao school. Ling Yuxing met the concerned eyes of Yun Ruhan and the others, and Ouyang Qing's anxious expression. Tears flashed in his eyes, but they didn't flow down again. "Senior brother, senior sister, junior sister, brother Qing, from now on, I only have you." Yun Ruhan patted Ling Yuxing's shoulder. "Silly, you should say that you will always have us by your side. This cloud-piercing city is boring, let's go." Ouyang Qing nodded repeatedly. "Yes, let's go. I don't want to stay in such a place for a moment longer. We don't need such relatives. Shaoxing, it's enough for us to have each other in the future." The group quickly arrived at the gate of cloud-piercing city. When they were about to leave the city, Mayan couldn't help but look back in the direction of the Ling family. Yun Ruhan asked, "Junior sister, what's wrong?" Mayan slightly frowned, and her expression was a little subtle. "I always feel that something is wrong." "What's wrong?" Chu Moli, who was standing to the side, suddenly spoke up as well. Has little junior sister also sensed it? Mayan was startled, and looked at Chu Moli, blinking. "I thought it was just my illusion." So third senior brother also felt it. Everyone was confused by their tongue-twisting riddles. "Junior sister, third brother, what are you talking about? I know you two are smart, so don't beat around the bush." Mu Yan thought for a moment and said, "How should I put it? I'm a musician, so I'm more sensitive to all kinds of sounds. When a person speaks, their emotions fluctuate. Whether it's anger, disgust, hatred, or love, I can't say I'm 100% certain, but I can more or less feel it." Ling Yuma and the rest were still confused. Ling Yuxing's expression changed slightly. "Little junior sister, what do you mean by that?" Mu Yan said in a deep voice, "How about this, you guys wait here for me, I'll go take a look first, I'll come back and tell you what it means." Just as she was about to leave, she heard a commotion in the city. Many people on the street began to run frantically, and some even ran towards the city gate. Behind them, the gates of Cloudpiercer City that were originally wide open began to close. Luo Yu asked suspiciously, "What's going on?" The sun is still high in the sky, why would they close the city gates? Waves of panicked shouts came from the crowd. Quickly go home. The Ouyang family's Iron Eagle Guard has been dispatched, and the leader is the Ouyang family head. What? Iron Eagle Guard. That's the Ouyang family's death squad that kills without spilling blood. Chapter 1840. His voice was trembling. Who will suffer this time? Ouyang Qing's face changed. Iron Eagle Guard. Why did my father send out the Iron Eagle Guard? The Iron Eagle Guard was a group of men of sacrifice raised by the Ouyang family. Although their cultivations were not high, they were all desperados with blood on their hands. Ouyang Qing was very disapproving of the Ouyang family raising the Iron Eagle Guard. She even wanted to directly disband the Iron Eagle Guard after taking over the Ouyang family. Therefore, the Iron Eagle Guard was now in Ouyang Xiangdong's hands. Where did the Iron Eagle Guard and the Ouyang family head go? They went to the west, to the westernmost part of the city. The westernmost part. Ling Yuxing's eyes widened, and his heart tightened. That was the direction of the Ling family's house. In the sky, dark clouds had covered the sun. The originally clear sky was now dark and gloomy. The entire cloud-piercing city made people feel as if they were suffocating. Ouyang Qing looked to the west, where the clouds were the thickest. He didn't know why, but he suddenly had a bad feeling. He grabbed Ling Yuxing's hand and said in a low voice, Xing, let's go. We need to leave the city before the gate is completely closed. Behind them, the city gate creaked and slowly closed. They were standing at the gate. If they took one step forward, they would be locked inside. If they took one step back, they would have to leave the city. The people of the Xiaoyao school also looked at Ling Yuxing. Ling Yuxing suddenly looked at Mu Yan and said in a hoarse voice, Junior sister, what do you mean? Mu Yan sighed. I don't know if you noticed that there is a jade pendant on your father's waist, and the tassels under it are exactly the same as this one. She took out a pouch from her waist. There was a tassel under the pouch, which was woven with red silk. It looked like a knot, but not exactly the same. Do you remember, senior brother? When you gave me this pouch, you said that your grandmother taught you how to weave the tassels. Only a very skillful hand could weave them. After your grandmother passed away, you were the only one in the entire Ling family who could make up stories. Ling Yuxing's eyes widened abruptly, his chest rose and fell violently, and his face was filled with disbelief and astonishment. How can a father who hates and loathes his son so much keep something that his son gave him with him all the time? Fifth senior brother, your father, your mother, and your older brother drove you away so resolutely. Was it really because they hated you? Or, do I want to risk my life to protect you? Ouyang Manor. The old wooden door was smashed open with a bang. A tall black figure strode into the Ling family's front door. Ling Fu, Ling Mu, and Ling Yuhao seemed to have expected something as they sat quietly in the courtyard. Seeing the person enter the door, only Father Ling stood up and made a symbolic bow. Greetings, Ouyang family head. Ouyang Xiangdong's gaze swept across the room, and his expression suddenly darkened. Where's Ling Yuxing? Father Ling said lightly, I don't know what you are talking about. There is no Ling Yuxing in our Ling family. Ouyang Xiangdong suddenly raised his hand and grabbed the air. Father Ling suddenly felt as if something was clasping his neck, and his whole body was involuntarily pulled in front of Ouyang Xiangdong. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.